disappointed in every one of you.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I kiss you on the mouth.
No, I'm not cool with that. I'm sorry.
One more time.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I mean, I'm dealing with degenerate animals.
I'm disappointed in every one of you. Disappointed in every one of you.
All right, come on.
Honestly, I can't do it, man.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
Let me tell you why.
It's gonna be all right, Nicky. Go ahead, shoot.
He just killed a little fucking man.
What are you going to do about it?
You're happy because you got nothing. You don't got a thing. You're happy because you got nothing. Lomito! Got nothing.
I want to get out of this rat hole. I want to get online. I need
BDA boxing.
Well, welcome everybody to another BD Boxing podcast. Broadcasting to you live from the true north. It's your good friend Mr. BDA, and I sure am glad that everybody could be on board for this one, fellas. In this episode, second part of the post-fight show for the big fight that we had yesterday. Which fight was that? Oh yeah, well, which one else do you guys think? Crawford versus Spence. We just had that here in last night. Last night we actually had the call-in show, and we had a lot of calls, a lot of interesting observations, and so we continue talking about the fight. I've gathered my thoughts a little bit too, and I actually rewatched a little bit of the fight. I got a couple of things to add about that as well. We might also, we're going to be opening up the phone lines near the end of the hour, depending on how the show goes, and let you guys call in case you guys forgot anything or didn't have a chance to call in yesterday. It was pretty late last night, so we're going to be opening the phone lines again later on. Don't forget to hit the like, spread the BDA gospel, really helps us out. If you want to donate a couple of shekels our way, you're certainly welcome to do so with the super chat feature. The most important thing is you continue to like and subscribe, all right, fellas? That's the most important thing. Don't forget that you can catch us on Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker, the whole shebang at your leisure. Let's give a big shout out to everybody in the chat. I'm talking about Danny, Fury owns Wakanda, Kyle Jefferson, MMA. I don't know if that's MMA champ in the house. Jack Ripper, Ralph Unreal, Warped Speed, Rafael Garza. Shout out to Rafael, always in the house as well, supporting and giving us his educated opinion. Shout out to Rapax Rocking Company. Shout out to him. Bravo Delta Alpha, SSP Diving. Who else? Reverend Pickles Not. That's K Not. Skull Kid 25. Who else? Am I missing anybody? Some rando. Jay Perez. Raphael 32. Many more people to come, I'm sure, fellas. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. All right. Well, in case you guys have been living under a rock or under a trash can, because I have been talking to some people that sound like they've been living under trash heaps. Terrence Crawford, and this is according to Ring Magazine, by the way. Let me read their headline. Terrence Crawford outclasses Errol Spence, wins Ring Magazine undisputed welterweight champion. Outclasses. I think that's a euphemism. It's a euphemism. Because I like to use demolish. I like to use dominate. I like to use decimate. And even if I wanted to, and if it wasn't a Sunday, I'd go with something sexual. Be that as it may, it was over in the 9th round. He dropped Errol Spence about 3 times. It wasn't even close. Not even close. And, I expected it to be somewhat competitive. Well, that's the thing. I got Jimmy here. Jimmy, thank you for being on, man. Let's talk about the event itself first. Because this was being touted as the fight of the century. By the way, it cost me 120 Canadian clams to watch it.
That's crazy.
120. So, I enjoyed the fight because of everything that had been transpiring. This was a fight 4 years in the making, a lot of trash talking between the fans, and it was a brilliant performance. So, for me, it was worth it. But, man, I wanted to be a little bit more competitive. What did you think?
I rewatched it actually twice because I was that impressed. Listen, I when I first watched it, I think I was kind of like everybody. You're not really, because you're like waiting on what's going to happen. You don't really study what they're doing. And I'll tell you, Crawford looked good. That's the best I've ever looked at. Seen him fight. I mean, he looked better than any other time, because I was saying to myself, if you really think about it, like, so are you saying Crawford, I mean, Spence is that bad that he would just literally, because if you think about it, am I wrong? I think he beat him as one-sided a fight as I've ever seen Crawford in. Right? So you're saying, so is this like, how really bad is he? So what I just think it was all dialed in. It was the motivation. He said it. He touched on it at the end when he said, man, for 5 years, because he's kind of a quiet guy. He's not one of those dudes who gets on social media, argues with people, and, even when he's being interviewed, he's kind of low key. But it was eating him away, and shit was being, like I said about his wife. I mean, it was brutal. It was brutal. It was groups of YouTubers making up narratives and then running with them and just trashing anybody who disagreed with them. It was like a cult, to be totally honest with you, because it really was, man.
Yeah, it was.
So making that pick was one of the easier picks, I'll be honest. Like, I'm not even like proud of that pick. Like, this picks I've kind of gone against the grain or whatever, but that to me was easy. And I'll make it again. Why? He's a big, strong dude, but he comes in on a straight line and he comes forward, right? That's ideal for Crawford. Most guys going to box him are going to try to stay on the, dance around with him. And Crawford's Spence going to come right at you, head on the line. And when he throws that jab, remember we looked at it on the video, Mr. BDA, and I said, see how he opens up his stance real wide and he slams himself forward? Okay, when he follows through with the right, if he doesn't connect with that right hand, he's got his fucking legs so wide apart in such a wide stance, and he kind of misses big. When you miss big with a wide stance with Bud Crawford, he's going to fucking light you up. And because he can throw quick from his hands, they don't have to be in a perfect punching position to really put something on you. And so he's just the wrong guy to do that. So I just always thought Spence, that of all the guys at the PBC, he would have the easiest time with because of his style. So that's why I was so confident for these past years. But what I do take pleasure in is just watching and knowing what it must be like for those guys who were so nasty to so many people, because they made it personal. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I can't remember how many times I was called a racist for picking Crawford. It was just nuts. But yeah.
Well, I call you a.
It was a great fight.
I call you a racist every day, so I mean, you shouldn't be bothered by that.
Yeah, well, I am a racist. Don't get me wrong, but fucking, at least not do it for fucking picking a fight. No, I'm just teasing.
Yeah, I know. Hey, 2 points on what you said, Jimmy, about the leaning in. Remember, when we were watching the film analysis, we were watching about how, like you said, the wide stance. So that's one. There's 2 more points coming in. Overleaning, whether he's throwing the jab, and especially the left, and especially the left to the body, he leans in way too much. So that what he has to do after he throws a shot and he's overleaning, now he's got to lean all the way back towards center line. And that's a long time against a quick fighter. And then on top of that, quick fighter with power. And you know what this reminded me of? Not exactly, obviously, but reminded me a little bit of Shane Mosley versus Antonio Margarito. Because I remember before that fight, too, everybody thought Margarito was going to run through Shane Mosley. And what happened stylistically? Margarito's a guy who can crack. Don't give me that shit about the plaster. He was never convicted of having plaster in his gloves. But he was a guy that could crack.
Ridiculous.
He could throw 1,000 shots per fight, and he had an iron chin. But what happened was, he fought a guy in Mosley who hit harder than he did, punch for punch, and then on top of that was way faster. So at that point, what the fuck was Margarito going to do? He wasn't going to outbox Mosley from the outside. All he could do was keep going and hope that he could, that Mosley would tire. And it was the same thing here. There was no way that Errol Spence was going to beat him. I mean, I was saying the jab, right? I said if Crawford takes the jab away, it's going to be a long night, just like with Inoue and Fulton. And he did. He did it easier than I expected from the first round on. And then what was Spence's plan B? After that, he was put pressure on, and then he started getting fucking countered and outhandled and outmuscled on top of that in the clinch. So plan B and C went out the window. I mean, it was over from that. Jimmy, from the second round on, I was talking with Bucho during the fight, and I said, there's no coming back from this. Like, within the third round, did you get the same feeling that after the third round, like, it's over?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, Mr. BDA. No, absolutely. And you said in the strength thing too. Like I key on. Listen, there's certain people. Obviously, I respect. Steve Kim is one of them. You know what I mean? He doesn't say stuff for just the sake of saying stuff. So when he does inform you or say something, I listen. And he always made a point to say how strong he always heard Crawford was, how wiry strong he is. Some dudes aren't that, they don't have to have a big muscular frame to be strong. And Steve's always said that's what he's heard about Crawford, people who wrestle with him and whatnot. So now you take that and it's a big thing. Back in the day, I started 4 years ago. I went back and listened, and I was like, what I was saying back then was, I got Crawford decision easily, unanimous. That's how I started out this thing years back. What changed me to stopping him was how he looked taking those punches from Ugas. He didn't look good. He didn't take those punches well. He didn't. It was a slight reaction, even if he wasn't hurt. Like those are punches that he would normally like blow off and like, kind of, keep moving on. Even if even if you got the flash of white light and a buzz in his ear for a second, he didn't show it. But he was physically showing the reaction of getting hit by Ugas, including to the body. And that's from that point on, I was like, oh, if you're feeling them things, Crawford's going to do you. And he did. I mean, he fucking beat him like a rented mule. That was unbelievable. Just glad he doesn't fucking hate him. He seemed to like the kid. Imagine if he had real dislike for him. He probably could have continued that by just lacing him up, just taking a little off the punches to beat him up. But
yeah, that prediction.
I'm just hoping he's all right. I don't want to see nothing happen to Spence, by the way. But anyways, BDA, sorry to cut you off there. What were you saying?
Yeah, that prediction about the power, about the Ugas thing. Yeah, in hindsight, yeah, you guys were, because I still had my doubts. I was like, well, Ugas can crack pretty hard, but one thing I did see coming was the combination punching, because I think it was Chief and Recognized pointed out too when we were watching clips. Those guys counter one, maybe two punches at a time. Crawford was fucking lightning quick. And then he was doing it with 3 shots at least. And by the way, also one thing I want to point out was, because we were talking with Chief about it too and recognized, we're watching a clip of when Ugas, before the mouthpiece thing, like in Spence, he put Spence on his heels twice. And we were watching one clip where it seemed as if he hurt him with a shot, but it was more of a shove. And we were debating that whether it was a shove or a punch. But there was two sequences. There were 2 sequences before the mouthpiece incident where Spence sort of fell backward on his heels and his back bent backward. Okay? So that means he's got horrible balance too. And in the 7th round of the Crawford fight, the second knockdown, which was near the end of the round, when he hit him with a double right hook, Crawford actually shoved him a little bit to the side. It was a little shove. And Spence's body bent all the way towards his left. So he's got horrible balance. He's got a weak core, just like we were talking about. That's why he needed to go to the body, which he didn't really need to. He didn't. But actually, Crawford did hurt Spence to the body before that sequence. But anyway, he bent him a little bit to the left. I'm thinking that's another thing. These type of little mistakes that were pointed out about Spence, they will cost you when you get to the highest level. That's why it's important to fix him. But he didn't fix him, and it was all. It was a myriad of reasons why he looked the way he did last night. Real quick, I know we got more people coming in here, and I'm yapping away. Shout out to Eddie Kane for his contribution to this. Was that? Well, let me
I was going to say, I don't think sometimes you don't talk enough.
Well, thank you. Let me read the super chat here. Shout out to Eddie Kane, who says, Rare Breed is calling the suicide prevention line right now. It's a lot of people doing that tonight. Or today, rather. All right, we got Bucho and we got Gonzalo the Guns coming in here. Gonzalo, I don't know if you want to go or whoever, like you guys decide. I don't want to.
Well, I already talked yesterday a bit about my thoughts on the fight. I just have a question for you guys. People talked about Spence. Some people talked about Spence being a pound-for-pound boxer. Does a pound-for-pound boxer lose like this?
No, never. That's why I never had him as a top 10. People, I never put him in my top 10 because he didn't deserve it. He never did anything. It puts it all in perspective now. Is he never faced somebody who could just, like, even Danny Garcia. Like, you got those channels calling him just this week an elite fucking win. And he just, that's a guy prodding, comes directly at him. Little Garcia. You just never had anybody. And Gonzalo pointed this out the best. He would always, this is the point Gonzalo always focused on, and I'm sure he will after when he talks about it. How Crawford can hit you from his hands in different positions, how he uses those long arms to spin and gets a lot of leverage on him when he looks like he's in a position that he can't do it in. That's what made him, and Gonzalo always pointed that out, and I think that was one of the major factors last night. But Gonzalo, you want to continue on that?
Crawford, he's got good counters, but kind of like what Butcher was saying, the big question is, how good was Spence really? I mean, it's kind of like hard to ascertain how great of a performance that was, because Errol Spence was like less than remarkable, very predictable, like a shell of himself, really. To be honest, he looked like he sucked, and I know Terrence Crawford had a lot to do with that. He made him look ordinary. But really, man, the dude gotta retire, dude. He's taking beatings now. It's like he's not really fast to begin with. He's pretty predictable. You know how he's fighting you. He's coming forward. He doesn't really have the speed. And he's just gonna be there to get beat up again against other dudes, especially going up to 154. But no, if I have to be positive about it, that was a good performance. And like I said, a lot had to do with Terrence Crawford making him look like that with the timing. Obviously, when the other dude's timing is on and yours is off, he's always going to be first to the punch. And you're always first and the other dude's second. By a little or by a lot, he's winning the exchanges. So that means he's landing his punches and you're not. Simple as that. And that's what happened. He was getting pieced up.
Yeah.
Well,
we talked about some fighters being overrated. And how do you measure if someone's underrated or not? Like this was evidence that he was overrated.
Well, I want to say something about that because I had time to think about that. I asked the same question you did, Bucho, about, and I said, how much Spence is Crawford going to get for beating Spence if Spence was off for a year and all that? And I think those things played a factor in that. That being said, I think it's safe to say, when you look at the context of Spence's last two performances, no, excuse me, even if you go back to the Kell Brook fight, and that was pre-accident, Kell Brook was giving him the business too. And that was a compromised Kell Brook. So I think it's safe to say, again, we're just, I'm speculating, but I'm giving you, evidence for why I think what I think. I think Crawford would have been him pre-accident either way, because again, the Kell Brook fight, that was pre-accident, and he was doubling Spence over with body shots. He was catching him with right hands. The difference between Crawford and Spence is a hard puncher, and he's a very good boxer. He's a better jabber than Crawford in terms of, fencing. But Crawford overall can punch with both hands. He's got more viciousness. He goes to the body, but he's overall a better fighter than Kell Brook. So I think, and again, this is my opinion, but with everything I said, I think Crawford would have beaten Spence either way. And by the way, whose fault is it that there was a layoff and that he had the accident and all that? That was Spence's fault. He's the guy that got drunk. And other younger fighters should look at him and say, cautionary tale right there.
Yeah, but now BDA, it looks, I think that Errol Spence cannot take punches, like his face is falling apart. It was kind of like concerning the way he was. I mean, this is boxing. I mean, I'm not gonna be like, he's getting beat up, like that. But yeah, look at his face, man. That's just not holding up too well.
I said the same thing last night. I said he needs to retire. He'd be crazy to fight again. Why? He's not going to make that kind of money again, even in a rematch. First off, he'd want that rematch at 154. And Crawford, why would he bother? And plus, really, why would you? I mean, what do you think Crawford's going to do? He'd probably beat him worse the next, because he once he got his timing down and he got his rhythm, it was over. He just had to figure out his rhythm. You could see him figure out his rhythm. And once he did, he started tattooing him. Because Spence always ducks. He throws that jab and he kind of ducks down to see if anything's coming back. That's how he beat it. And you're right too, Gonzalo. It was a body shot that kicked it all off. BDA. You mentioned the body work. It was a body punch because you saw Spence's right elbow come down to his body, holds it to his body. That's always a sign. Like it's a natural thing to protect where you just got hurt at. And he kind of slowed down a little, and that's when Crawford jumped in with the going for the head. But yeah, listen, of course, that's going to be the thing. When when the stunness has happened, and and they wake up today and they're reaching for their Valium. They're like, oh, what the fuck am I going to say? You know what I mean? On YouTube and on Twitter, that's going to be the excuse. Well, the fuck car accident. Oh, dude, he landed on his fucking face on the cement. You know what I mean? They weren't saying that when he beat fucking Ugas or he beat Danny Garcia. Exactly. That wasn't an issue. No, you're 100% right. Prior to the car crash and years of heavy drinking, he might have went the distance. The only difference is, I think Spence might have been young enough and variable enough to take the beating for 12 rounds. That's the only difference.
Yeah,
now he
maybe.
can't take the beating. That's
by the way,
my opinion.
Can I read a super chat here? Shout out to Gucci Berserk for his contribution to the super chat. He says, hold on a second, where is it? He says, how did all the boxing media... No, excuse me. Gucci Berserk says, Crawford froze Spence like Mitch McConnell. Oh, come on. He keeps going after... That's the second time he goes after Mitch McConnell. Poor guy, man. He suffered a stroke. But shout out to the Gucci Berserk. Shout out to the Gucci Berserk for his contribution. I wanna ask you guys something about that later, about the freezing, the effect of punches that they can have. Shout out to Ira Core for his contribution with Super Chat. He says, how did all the boxing media have the audacity to have Spence top 5 pound for pound? Well, that's the mind games. That's the mind tricks, that people play. Games people play, like the song from the 70s. But anyway, yeah, that's essentially it, man. But, well, you guys go ahead. You guys, who wants to go touch on another point if you want?
Well, the media started that whole top 5. I'll never forget it. Was a couple of years back when they did ESPN did their top 5 list, and yeah, they put him there at think number 5, and we did a show about it. Like really, and it was narrative driven. It's really what it was. And again, you have a bunch of rabid fans, and a guy's not fighting often enough. So what happens? Narratives get. We just watched one get started and grown just this past week when that kid Chuck Zedel, whatever his name is from Floyd Hype, went on to say that about Inoue, right? And it just mushroomed into videos being made. He's a drug cheat. And the same type of thing happened with Spence. One narrative would start, it would blow it up, and by the end, he's top 5. There was people tweeting how he not only he beat Canelo, beat Bivol. It was just shit that was being said. And it just got crazier and crazier. So yeah, that's how we got on the top 5.
You know why?
Media
Because it's
driven.
They have the mentality of high school girls. A lot of these people, if they just hear something and then they repeat it and they don't look into it, they don't question it. It's just, well, this guy said this, and it's interesting. I was reading it. I was on Twitter before coming in here, just to catch the aftermath and the fallout of everything that happened last night. Yeah, and Ring accuses something interesting. He said, and I think other people had said this after the Wilder Fury fight, but it's even more prevalent now, especially this week, where so many of these race-driven fans, these ghetto-ass Nimrods, were picking Fulton to completely decimate and outbox Inoue. That blew up in their faces. And then this fight that we just had last night, that had to be the worst week. And he said, who's going to trust these people now? Because again, and he said, who's going to go to them for boxing opinions? And my thing is this, people are going to keep watching those channels because they don't watch them for boxing takes. They watch them for race race drama. They love to be told that you the best, we the victims, we this, with that, everyone's against us. And so they'll keep going on to those channels. But in terms of boxing, they absolutely have shown that they only pick with their heart. They only look at race, and that's what it is. I didn't want to make it about race, but I just thought it was worthwhile mentioning because this fight, for like Jimmy said, for 4 years, this was going on back and forth on social media. So it is what it is, man.
By the way, I don't want to take credit away from Crawford. He put in a great performance. But when your opponent retires, which might happen after, when your opponent retires right after you beat him, what does that tell you about your opponent? I mean, doesn't that tell you that guy was basically done already? So like man. Sean Porter, after he lost to Spence, he retired. So,
well, again,
you know what I mean? Like, think about it. Think about it. Spence wasn't the same. Spence was done.
Yeah, he should retire. He should retire. What is he gonna do? Like he got no special effects. He's like straightforward, come at you. No real defense. Only parry sometimes. But let's say he moves up to 54 and his Punch resistance increases. Punch resistance increases for what? To take harder beatings because you can't move your head. Because although you have more resistance, you're still catching punches like big time against bigger dudes. What's going to happen to you?
Let me just say this.
Yeah,
Some
that's the
people are going to
problem.
say,
He's
"Oh,
catching all these punches.
some
and his
people are
face
going to
not
say
holding
these
up.
are
Like,
some
it's
people
over.
are going to say these are excuses." But listen, everyone here on this panel picked Crawford to beat him. Everyone on this panel picked Crawford to beat Spence. Some of us with more confidence than others. So they're not excuses. It's part of the reason why some of these guys, myself included, picked Crawford to win because of those red flags, the layoff, the lifestyle. You have to factor that in. So I think Bucho brings a good point, a good question to ponder. We're not saying that he's necessarily right, but if Spence retires, I mean, this is what. And by the way, there's other people giving Bucho flag. They're giving you flag because you put in the community section the question: should Spence retire? And some people are saying, "Wow, after one performance, this is what's bad with boxing fans."
It's not one performance.
But let me say, let me say that. Yeah, I'm not an alarmist. After a guy takes a beating, I never say, or after a guy has a bad performance, I rarely say, "Oh, he should retire," because I've seen guys come back. I've seen Eric Morales, George Foreman, Evander Holyfield, when everyone thought he was going to have a heart attack in the ring, and these guys come back. So I'm not an alarmist, but this was a type of beating. It wasn't just a beating. He got dropped on top of that 3 times and didn't do shit. And then on top of that, the lifestyle issues. I think it's worth considering the question: should he retire?
Not only like Jimmy said, like Jimmy said, what are his options for the future? Like, where can he go?
They only they only hit harder at 154. Well, not necessarily because they're not going to be as sharp as Crawford, even anybody up there. But yeah, really, I mean, and again, it's not losing a performance, right? They go life and death, and Crawford ekes out a unanimous decision. Nobody's going to be saying that. But the dude got beat up. I mean, he got beat up. He looked old. He looked slow. His timing was shit. Was terrible. And again, that's ring rust. And why don't they ever admit it? Why don't they ever admit it when they're asked? When the guy asks them, Jim Gray asks him, do you think the layoff had anything to do with it? Why don't they just be honest and go, well, obviously, you know what I mean? I haven't fought in a while. Is it because they'd get in trouble?
Probably because you're blaming Al Heyman or the matchmakers or whoever. That's what you're saying. If you say, yeah, it's a layoff, then okay, why do you have a layoff? Who's responsible?
Exactly.
Hey,
right.
Speaking of Al Heyman, I wanted to play you this. Somebody found it on Twitter. I forget who posted on Twitter, but I know somebody posted on the Discord on top of this. I think this is from that Chicken Talk.
The Jew Bob Arum wouldn't.
This is from that Chicken Talk. Whatchamacallit? Twitter. They have a show on Twitter because you can stream now. And these guys
they actually have a YouTube channel too, but it's not that big. But yeah, what do they call it? Chicken squawk. That's what people call it on Twitter.
Anyway, they had this to say about the about last night's event. Obviously, they don't have much to say about the fight because it was a beatdown. But now they're trying to salvage it by saying it was a big event, and they have a couple of choice words for a certain desert tribe. Let's listen to what they have to say.
The Jew Bob Arum would never put on a big.
So he's saying the Jew Bob Arum. I just want to make that clear here.
The Jew Bob Arum would never put on a big fight between 2 black people. He just won't do it.
Yeah.
He just won't do it. Today is look, Crawford, motherfucker, great performance, whatever. But today is a celebration of Al Heyman, in my opinion. Because if not for Al Heyman, this fight wouldn't have motherfucking happened. Right?
Yeah, true.
So all this other shit y'all talk about, this and that, nigga, y'all niggas is motherfucking weak niggas to me. I will always be on the motherfucking war front. We understand how these motherfucking Jews, crackers, hunky, rednecks have done your people. Will you really understand this shit? Then you be like, yeah, okay, yeah, we dominate. You know what I'm saying? We dominate.
Shit, I'm with you, man. They own a record label and they put out all the bad music. to our
Yeah,
people.
these motherfuckers.
I did this
This
video.
guy, no, it's not about Crawford winning. It's about this motherfucker that believed in Crawford and Spence to put up the money to make the biggest fight in motherfucking history.
All right, so that's the clip right there. I
Okay,
mean,
so Bowen never liked Crawford. He never believed in Crawford. Like that's ridiculous. He
Highest
created
paid
Crawford.
welterweight. Exactly. Highest paid welterweight. It was for Al Heyman. Al Heyman, remember, like Bob said, I can't remember how many contract offers I've sent over to those guys. You heard him say they shut me out for years. Who do you think did that? The guy Al Heyman. The fact that dude just felt so openly fine and cool with the Jews and the honky crackers. I mean, let's just not take away. Listen to his fucking diction. Just listen to the way he talks. You think that kid's ever paid a fucking income tax? Fucking, you know what I mean? Where you're getting all your feelings out because this is your time out of county. Fuck out of here. Stop saving up for your commissary. You zipperhead.
You gotta thank Al Heyman for making this fight. Nobody else
Thank Al Heyman.
wanted to make. Yeah, nobody wanted to make this fight happen. Like he made it happen. So.
it's interesting, man, because again, I just gotta every once in a while we gotta play these clips just to keep reminding people about why the LDBC is hated. Because there's only one community saying and doing this type of things, and that's them. So
Black pussy.
I mean, that's all I'm saying here. All right, now, what else were we gonna say? Yeah, hey, listen. Some other people are saying that this is what happens when guys get released from the reservation. Stephen Fulton, and apparently that's what Steve Kim was saying. He said that he'd been saying it before the fight was even, or before, as soon as the fight was signed between Fulton and Inoue. He said that what he'd heard was that Fulton told Al Heyman, "Look, you gotta let me do this. Do not take away this financial opportunity for me." And so he had to let. And even he said, Al Heyman gave me permission to do it. Spence now takes on Crawford, get his ass beat. Fury Wilder gets his ass beat. Canelo Plant, Canelo came over, wiped the floor with Plant, then left. Now he's back with the PBC. And so this is what's happening with Tank Davis too. And this is what their words, not mine. We're keeping everything in-house. They do not want to fight outside the reservation. Now, Tank Davis, I don't know if anyone's going to put a beating the way Crawford put a beating on Spence, because Davis does have, when he wants to, he can just dance around the ring and stink the joint out. And he makes himself very slippery to hit. But this is why he avoided Lomachenko. This is why he wants no part of Shakur Stevenson or even Devin Haney. Or any other guys, as Camarón Cepeda. They don't want to risk it because you saw what happens when they do. And I got a question, by the way. Al Heyman, in a way, it's good for the fighters because he protects them until it's time to cash them out, and he makes the money throughout that time. But for us boxing fans who are shelling out money for this is why people say, "Oh, why do you hate the PBC?" We don't hate the PBC. We hate what they're doing. I wanted the PBC to succeed when they started off. But you can see this type of model is indeed protecting fighters and is preventing us from seeing the best fighting the best right away and sorting things out. But anyway,
did we really have to see? Did we really have to see Spence Garcia? Right? Did we really have to see Spence Ugas at this point? Like, we should have. Errol would have been exposed 2 years ago already.
Right. Yeah. That's what they should have done. By the way,
so we just wasted a bunch of time. We wasted a lot of time.
Shout out to Rock Liggins for 2 super chats. One of them, he didn't have a comment, but the second one, he says, "This isn't about Spence. He wasn't a hype job. Crawford is just that great. He dominated Charlo and Zoo at 154. Are you saying Crawford? Okay, I think he says Crawford would dominate Charlo and Zoo at 154, which, I mean, the way supposedly the rumor was that Spence schooled Charlo in sparring. So Charlo must have been sitting there. If that's true, he must have been sitting there thinking, holy shit, I got to step my game up if I want to beat Crawford. So shout out to Rock Liggins for his contribution. Shout out to Golden King's Toys for his contribution. He says, now we know why Errol pulled out the Pac fight. I mean, that was a rumor, but yeah, listen, that the Pacquiao that fought Cotto in 2009, decimation time. That's all I had to say about that. What else was I going to ask you guys about this fight? So Gonzalo, when I asked Jimmy the same thing here, by the third, fourth round of last night's fight, did you know it was over? Or did you still think, maybe Spence can do this, maybe he can turn it around?
I knew it was over. I didn't lose interest on the fight per se, but I knew I was like turning away, and I just knew, okay, at some point this dude's gonna win. He's gonna fuck him up.
Yeah, I mean it was decimate. The hand speed, like I said, the trouble was one of the reasons why I also knew it was over was okay. So Spence tried to box him from the outside, and as soon as he leaped in with a left hook to the body and got caught leaning back, he tried to pressure Crawford. That was Plan B. That's when he initiated Plan B, right? He started getting muscle around. He started taking huge punches. So now Plan C. The only thing he could do in Plan C was turn it up. Keep doing Plan B, but just turn it up. The intensity, the volume. And that just got him, that just walked him deeper into the grinder. So it is what it is, man. I mean, I knew from the get-go. And then he was getting out-muscled in the clinches, too. My goodness gracious. So what else, guys? What else do you think? Any other thoughts about the fight?
I mean, Crawford's power certainly carried. It's one of those instances where this guy, he's knocking everybody out at welter. The way he throws the punches on the counter is he's like leaning back and going a little backward while swinging the arm forward, giving him the ability to land at that sweet spot where he's landing, he's clipping these dudes with the counters. It doesn't look like the arm is traveling much at times because as he's going back, the arm is coming forward. And like, yeah, man, dude can crack.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, the way he can just transition between defense and then countering is real quick on the trigger. I gotta wonder though, if Charlo hadn't moved to take on Canelo, which by the way, he's ducking Zoo. Because that's what they said about Canelo. He said he ducked Benavides to fight Bivol. So apparently, if you really wanted to be an asshole, you could say that Charlo is avoiding Zoo. But let's say Jermel had stayed at 154 and Crawford moved. How would you guys see that one going?
Crawford, what, at 154 against Charlo?
Yeah.
It would be a little more competitive, but it would be the end result. It would be the same. It would be fucking... he would look like Mrs. Charlo on out in the parking lot.
Oh, wait a minute.
He'd be looking up at him.
Wait a minute.
I'm just being honest. Now, he'd beat the fucking snot out of him.
That'd be a good win.
Has Crawford stated what he plans on doing? Does he want to keep boxing? I mean, he could retire after this performance, no?
Yeah. But if he fought Charlo and beat him, even though Charlo, if he loses to Canelo, he still retains his titles at 54. And if Crawford beats Charlo, he would be 3-time undisputed.
But the problem with that, though, Gonzalo, would be 2 years from now because it's only once a year over there. Charlo's only going to fight Canelo this year, and then it'd have to be next year. So I guess, yeah, a year and a half or whatever, but because you know how they roll over there. So would he really want to hang around? Because eventually the age is going to catch up to him. Although you've seen the difference from clean living, right? You see how fucking sharp he was at 35? He wasn't an old 35, whereas Spence looked old. He looked old. Slow,
well, he also said that he
predictable.
Crawford also stated that he boxes for the money. He made it very clear on the Mike Tyson podcast. He's in it for the money. So I guess we'll have to see how many pay-per-views this fight sold, right?
Right.
We shall see, man.
To see. Go ahead, Jimmy.
No, they had guaranteed purses, so they did do all right. I know they had some guaranteed purses, they said.
Right, but like what I'm saying is like, will there be demand for, like, if the numbers are crap, then what are his options? I mean, definitely not another Spence rematch. And then you start thinking, how much money would he make if he fights Jermel in a year and a half, you know?
Well, Boots already tweeted out he wants winner. I mean, Ribbery told me last night that, well, the only person at this point who beats Bud is Boots. So he's already on to that.
Now, that's interesting. Let me ask you this about Boots, because I saw the clip about not about how the fight goes, but whether it can even be made, because I saw that clip that somebody had posted where Crawford was on a podcast and the Jaron Ennis called in, and I think Crawford told him, he asked him something point blank about how, like, when did you send the offer or something along those lines, and all that Jaron Ennis could reply was with, what you mean? What you mean? So whenever a guy gets presented an argument and all he can come back with is what you mean, usually an indication that he doesn't know what he's talking about, or he just doesn't want to answer or can't answer. So what was it about, Jimmy? Was it did Ennis avoid Crawford? Or?
Oh, about with that particular thing with Crawford and Ennis about the contracts. Is that what you're talking about? Oh well, yeah. He started tweeting out that why haven't I received when they were looking kind of for a dance partner when Crawford was looking for a dance partner. He never asks for me. Why don't I ever get these offers? And they don't even respond to mine or something like that. They turned down. They didn't want nothing to do us. So he asked him about that. And here's the thing, though. Boots' father ratted him out because he was on another channel, and he said he admitted that they never sent Crawford a contract offer. And all you have to do, and again, sometimes not what they say, is how they move. What are they doing? If he was serious about fighting Crawford, that's the guy he wanted. Why was he constantly fighting in IBF eliminators?
Yeah.
When, you know what I mean? Because that's the belt that fucking Spence held. That's the only, every fight he sanctioned was by one of the Spence's belts. So he wasn't moving like somebody was chasing Crawford, and that was a whole lie. So he was caught in a lie on that podcast, and so that's why he was playing that fucking, what you talking about type bullshit.
Let me read a couple of super chats here, and I'm glad we got that cleared up. Shout out to Never Sobers for his contribution with the super chat. He says, Al Heyman is having a going out of business sale in 2023 and 2024. Fire. All his boys are on the chopping block. Who will still be here by 2025? I want to get, Chief, stay there, because I want to bring that up to you as well, because you talked about the clearance sale a couple of years ago. Shout out to Warp Speed for his contribution to the super chat. He says that PBC never plays the national anthem. Screw him. Yeah, well, actually, listen, no offense to America or any other country, but I want to see people fight. And that's what I like, too. They walked into the ring straight up. No turning off the lights, no inflatables, no fucking rising platform. Just get in the ring. That's what we paid for. Shout out to Mr. Calderon 93 for his contribution to Super Chat. He says, Bud didn't even switch to Orthodox. That's crazy. Hey, absolutely, man. Well, he didn't need to. He knew what he was doing from the get-go. So I got comments on that, too. Shout out to Uncle Burnt Apostrophe for his contribution with the Super Chat. He says, kudos on all the fight coverage, fellas, including the great film analysis. Well, shout out to you, Uncle Burnt Apostrophe. I hope you enjoyed it and appreciate your contribution. Guys, don't forget to hit the like, and we're going to be opening up the phone lines in about half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour, depending on how this goes. Let's get to Chief here. He just jumped in here. Chief, go ahead, please.
Well, first of all, my prediction wasn't on point because I had second guesses of what would happen with the two, and I saw the difference. Basically, I bought into Spence's platform, sharing to all of the press conferences, because when they were in the ring together, the height difference was nominal. It was almost non-existent. You couldn't tell the difference. When they're standing there on the stage, it looked a whole lot different. Almost looked like they got a box for Spence to stand on, because he looked so much bigger. And of course, he's wearing layers of clothes. So some people thought there was a distinct size difference. There wasn't one in the ring. As much as I want to give Bud credit for all this, and I am going to give him a lot of credit, the weight definitely had a factor on Spence's legs. And he finally stayed at the weight class too long. I think Bud would have won no matter what. I think that Spence could have made it more competitive had he been stronger making weight. So roughly around the Porter fight, I think that it would have he would have made Spence would have made a strong effort for himself. I think the only time he could have beaten Terrence Crawford was around the time that he fought Kell Brook and Peterson and Ocampo. Right around that time was like his first year's champion. That was it. After that, Bud and Steve Kim hit this in an article. They gave the mistake of letting Bud acclimate to 147 to where it wasn't hard for him to make anymore. And he was comfortable at that weight, and he was used to carrying it and everything else. And that was a mistake, because he was already a better fighter. Now he's comfortable in the weight class also. And we saw what happened with that last night. The better fighter who was comfortable making weight where size was no longer a factor. And we saw what happened. Someone said that Bud didn't switch at all. Now, this is just a theory of mine that I can't prove, and I don't know Bud personally enough well to say this, but it looks to me he started going strictly orthodox when he started gunning that I don't want anybody else other than Errol Spence. Like when Sean Porter said, or Kenny Porter said, we're now been given permission to negotiate with Terrence Crawford, and Bud said, I'm not interested in that fight. That was about 2 years ago. The only thing in his mind was Errol Spence. And so I think that's when he decided, look, my right hand's my power hand. I can fight either stance. He fought every fight as a southpaw. He rarely switched. He would switch in moments, but he stayed southpaw for almost every fight. Almost the entire fight against Kavaluskas, the entire fight against Porter, then most of the fight against Avanesian, and possibly slightly further back. I have every belief that he wanted to face Errol Spence as a southpaw, knowing that his right jab, if that really is his true power hand, being in front, nailing him with that. And everyone said, well, he doesn't have that much of a jab. It's because he was fighting mirror image most of the time. He was playing, like I keep saying on Sarah, he's playing patty cake. But when he would use that jab, he'd slap it down and knock it in real good, and he usually knock people's head back. He's a cerebral enough fighter that he knew when he had the opening to throw the jab more often, and standing as a southpaw, it would be there all day, that he'd be able to use his power hand as the jab to set everything up. And that's exactly what he did. My belief is the reason why he's fighting so much southpaw further back was because he knew eventually he was going to fight Errol Spence, and he wanted to fight him a southpaw, so his power hand would be in the front and be throwing more consistently.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially when Chief, we were talking about that. Remember when we were talking about the fucking leaning in from Spence, leaning in with that left to the body or the jab upstairs, but especially the left. After he throws the left, now he's got to go back all the way to the center line, and that's a long space and a long time to be in that punching range for Crawford, and a guy can crack like Crawford. I mean, we just saw him get pieced up there with those combos. The other thing is this, because again, people are saying. By the way, when you said that you switch your prediction because Spence maybe you overrated him a little bit, you gave him a little bit too much credit. All I got to say is join the club. Because I was going to go with the rest of the guys. Crawford, I was going to say Crawford stoppage, but then I said, I'm going to give Spence credit. I'm going to say Crawford decision. I think Spence makes it the distance, and he didn't. But
I knew Crawford would win, but I didn't know it was going to be like that.
Yeah, me neither, man.
Sorry,
but that's an interesting thing, because now some people are saying, and that's a big question is, don't take away credit from Crawford's performance. Don't take away. But we're not taking credit away from him, because we said before the fight that one of the reasons why we were picking Crawford and why we did pick Crawford was because of Spence's lifestyle. I mean, it is what it is. But I don't think listen, I do think you also got to give, the reason why I give Crawford credit is because when it comes to the weight issue, I wasn't talking about the weight issue before. I was talking about the lifestyle. But the weight issue, let's not make it out to be like Crawford didn't have to kill himself to make 147 too. That's a big dude right there. And he said himself, he walks around at like 170 pounds. So he was, maybe Spence looked bad. Like Deontay Wilder said that, by the way. He tweeted out that, not taking anything away from Crawford, but Spence didn't look right. He looked dehydrated. I'm thinking, look, both guys had to kill themselves. Maybe Spence struggled a little bit more, but if that's the case, that's a big if. But if that's the case, then whose fault is it? I mean, that's not Terrence Crawford's fault. So,
well, let's also look at the fact that was he trying to make weight appropriately, or did when the fight got signed? Because let's face it, by the time this fight got signed, and we knew what was really happening, and we knew it wasn't a joke anymore, and everything was on point, it didn't seem like there was a full training camp of time, because there were all these press conferences all the time. Usually you're in training camp and the press conferences start. That's probably about the time it's either well before camp starts, because you've announced the fight, and then you do your press, and then you do a few more just before the fight. So you have that 8 weeks of hardcore training, and they're getting ready. And then by the time you're doing the press tour, you're just doing road work because you're done with sparring and everything. This one seemed rather quick to me, of when they announced it versus when it was going to happen. So whether these guys were either already in the gym or Spence had to get ready in a hurry, in which case he probably lost the weight through sauna. He claims he had a nutritionist, but it's probably through sauna and crash dieting and vitamin supplements versus, eating real meals and stuff like that to try and make sure he still had nutrients, but wasn't putting on weight. And, he looked chiseled, but the face, and when around the weigh-in, when I noticed that his face wasn't just this, he's already a light-skinned African-American, but he looked pale. And when I saw that in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, Crawford's definitely going to win now, but how? And I didn't realize that he had no legs. Now, again, I think Crawford would, you guys heard me for almost 2 years now. I think Crawford would have won regardless if Spence would have made the weight comfortably or not. But I think Spence's legs, just like Diego Corrales against Floyd Mayweather, would not have gone down from his or been wobbled from as many shots if his legs were a little more sturdy. It wasn't his chin that was the problem. His legs didn't have any energy because he sapped himself of his strength to make weight. I am not taking away from Terrence Crawford. He did exactly what you're supposed to do with a guy that can't make weight. You beat him up and you ship him out. He did his job, and he did it extremely well.
Yeah, back him up and wrap him up, back him up like a turkey.
But at the same time, the way I know, Bud hits harder than Porter, but the way Spence's legs didn't look like they were rubbery when he was getting hit by Porter. I think that at that stage, he could have taken Bud's punches a little bit better. He still would have gotten hurt and knocked all over the ring because his balance isn't as good as people think it is. He gets knocked off balance. He swings wide and he gets hit very easily. All his defensive stuff, he uses a high guard when he actually uses a defense. He doesn't move his head. He ducks only wild shots that he sees coming. He doesn't use any upper body elusiveness. It's just a high guard. That's all he really uses. He doesn't use his feet to get out of the way because he's too busy coming forward. He is a hittable fighter. That's not a downfall of his, except for when he doesn't have the strength to endure his opponent's pressure, which what happened last night.
Yeah, let me reiterate something we said earlier. I think Crawford would have beaten him before the accident and I referenced the Kell Brook fight. Kell Brook himself was compromised, by the way, and he was giving Spence the business. And that's a guy who Brook has a very good jab and a straight right, but he does not have good hooks or even that great uppercuts. Crawford has better offense. He's got better defense. He's got a little bit more of a mean string, better body puncher. So, like you said, that's going to be the big question: could Spence have gone the distance? Maybe. I don't see him winning against Crawford, even pre-accident. And also, people are saying, well, these sound like excuses. First of all, we're not making excuses because we picked the right guy. That's number one. Number two, one of the reasons why we picked Crawford was because of the accident. You can't just dismiss the accident. It's like when people go with Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia. Oh, no excuses because Ryan Garcia signed a contract and he agreed to the rehydration clause. But if we're talking about skills, if we are gauging skills and talent, you cannot dismiss the reality, which is that the factors that happen in real life. And what happened to Spence in real life was that he was leading a horrible lifestyle. We kept saying it here. And then on top of that, a 16-month layoff. You're really going to sit here and tell me that didn't help? But again, I think...
And almost nobody talked about that. Nobody talked about that.
But just reiterating that pre-accident, Crawford still beats him. But go ahead, Chief. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry I jumped over you on that one. But we were talking a lot and it was lightly mentioned by us. And we cover everything. There's no stone unturned with us. We notice just about everything that happens leading up to a fight. I know Jimmy mentioned the fact that it was a long layoff, but very few people were acknowledging the fact Spence had been off for a whole year. And I mentioned at one time, he fought twice in 19, once in 20, none in 21, once in 22 against a tailor-made fighter for him, a guy who may be physically strong, but is not a heavy puncher, who's there to be hit. There's no strategy that needs to be done to beat Ugas. There's just none for a guy like Spence. I'm just going to use my punches because he's going to be there. I'm not going to miss. The only thing I might do is have his punches blocked by a high guard, a fellow high guarder. But so long as my jab's neutralizing his, I don't have anything else to worry about. I'll just keep punching. And the more I keep punching, it's a mathematical equation. This plus this plus this plus this plus so many punches eventually going to equal a stoppage. That's what happened. This didn't get him ready for Bud at all. And then he didn't fight at all after that until this fight. And that was, a whole year off. Now, at 33 with weight issues, which he admitted everyone's known he's got, and I'm not dismissing this. We all knew that he had these weight issues, but he chose to stay at 147 this whole time. He never moved up. He chose to stay here, thinking that he was just too big. It was his arrogance. He thought he was just too big, too strong, and too good for everybody. And, I mean, when you're winning your fights, who's to tell you that you're wrong? But this excellent trainer that he's got, why did he not pick up on the fact that, hey, you know what? We might need to try and make this fight in the next weight class. It's time for you to, other than the fact that Derek James is training both fighters and there's a conflict of interest, he should have pushed both guys a little sooner to go to 160 and 154 and then said, we'll try and fight Bud here instead. This will increase your legacy of being a two-time champion. Okay, you didn't go for undisputed. You can always just say, I couldn't make the weight anymore. That's why Trinidad didn't go for undisputed after he beat De La Hoya. We know he could have beaten, I can't remember the guy's name anymore. The guy that beat not Castillo. Anyway, I'm not going to stumble over.
Well, let me say this, Chief. Let me say this. Because we are going to be having a pound-for-pound show later on in the week, a special Open Lines Friday midweek show, because we said we were going to do it after Inoue fighting on Tuesday and having his sensational performance, and then Crawford having his sensational performance. I think now this really shakes up the pound for pound list. And somebody in the crowd in the chat said Crawford wasn't fighting nobodies; he just made him look like nobodies. And that's the same thing the same mistake people were making with Inoue, and still continue to make with him. There's still a lot of people out there who are now, when it comes to Crawford Inoue, a lot of people are going to be picking with race-colored glasses. So there's going to be a lot of people that are going to go for Crawford because he's he looks like them. But let's just, again, when we do the pound for pound show, let's try to keep it objective and let's really try to give a good argument. Don't base it on race or blah, blah, blah. Because the same thing that people were saying about Crawford, they were saying and they continue to say about Inoue. He's never fought anybody. He makes them... No, this guy is running through to these fighters like a hot knife through butter because he is that good. And I think that's going to be a sensational show to have later on this week when we try to... So what we're going to do later on this week is we're going to have a list with 10 spots, and you guys get to tell us, jump on the panel, and you tell us where you have, or who you have in your top 10 pound for pound. You're going to get to arrange it. But I want to go back to, by the way, hold on, somebody donated the super chat. I got to look it up here. We're going to be opening up the phone lines real soon in about a couple of, say 10 minutes maybe. So stay tuned for that. Shout out to Rock Liggins for his contribution to the super chat. He says, Diaz fight was the first time Bud fought a southpaw. Yeah, the Dominican dude at 140, I forget his first name, Diaz. Felix Diaz, I think that was it. Yeah, I think that was, wow, that was the first time he fought a southpaw. Interesting. All right. Well, he made the right decision staying southpaw last night. Like Chief broke it down why. Also, I wanted to bring up something else here before we move on. Because I also want to cover a little bit of the undercard. Okay, so we're talking about Jaron Ennis. Because look, Virgil Ortiz, who the fuck knows what's going on with that guy? He's all screwed up physically. And he probably won't fight 147. So we got Jaron Ennis. That's the guy that's within the PBC umbrella. He's undefeated. He's flashy. He's big. That seems to be the only real reasonable fight to make other than a rematch, which is unreasonable based on the performance last night. But they're going to try to do that. But Jaron Ennis, he relies a little bit too on reflexes too. He drops his hands. He turns his chin away to try to get away from shots. Terence Crawford relies on reflexes a little bit, but you saw last night he could really fight conventional as well. He showed you that guard that I was talking about, that he showed in sparring. Jaron Ennis, I don't know if he can do that. He lacks the seasoning that Crawford has. He lacks a little bit of that IQ. So how would you guys see a Crawford Ennis fight going?
Jimmy,
right now? Oh, well, yeah, I'll say right if it was to happen next. Crawford's, Ennis is losing that fight. Absolutely. He's not ready for Crawford. Karen's, you know what I mean? Or that prodding, slow foot kid he just beat up on, tailor-made for him. He's done nothing. He hasn't placed anybody to get him for that buzzsaw last night. Seriously. And I'm big on Ennis. He's a good kid. He's a talented dude. But first off, they turn him into a fucking part-time fighter like they did Spence, and you only get worse when you're not getting better. And then when you're matching him on top of never letting him fight against soft people, it's like going to prison. When you come out, you're the age you went in at. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't grow up in jail, and like you don't progress to a better fighter. Like, he's not going to be where Crawford's at. Crawford's had enough of these world championship fights, or at least fought top, better level where he had to develop those skills. Ennis, if the trajectory was where he was back when he was fighting 4 times a year, yeah. Right now, if he was to step into that, nah, no way. I don't like his chances on that at all. I don't know enough about his chin to say whether or not he gets stopped, but he's losing that fight. Absolutely.
Usually I would have disagreed with you based off what I think about Ennis. However, based off of what you do when you give a great fighter confidence who still has it, he is forever going to have the Tom Brady chip on his shoulder, meaning Bud Crawford. No, just because he won this fight doesn't mean the next fight isn't going to be, okay, now I'm the best, so now, no, I'm still going to prove to you I'm still better than that guy. He even said it last night. I never take an opponent lightly, and it shows last night. Again, regardless of the weight issue, he downloaded and studied that opponent. It was like what Vitaly Klitschko once said, I was always preparing for Lennox Lewis. He wasn't training for Lennox in every fight, but he was constantly watching him because that was the heavyweight champion. So I have this opponent that I got to train for this fight. Okay, I've beaten this guy. Now I'm going to study Lennox Lewis some more. Now I'm going to study Lennox Lewis some more. So when he got in the ring with Lennox Lewis, he already knew what he was going to do. He had 2 weeks to prepare, just like Lennox. Which one was more prepared? Vitaly Klitschko. Why? Not just because Lennox was at the end of his career, but because Lennox didn't study Vitaly. He figured, okay, when I fight Vitaly, I'd be prepared. He didn't know they were going to replace him at the last minute. Vitaly said, the second I get in with, if someone would have beaten Lennox Lewis, he would have started studying that guy. No one beat Errol Spence. So Bud was constantly downloading and studying Errol Spence. He was ready. But now that he's done that, he's not going to just wait and say, okay, now that I'm the best, someone's got to knock me off the mountain. He's going to say, I'm on the mountain, come knock me off. Oh, Ennis, you want to be the one to come knock me off? You better bring your working boots because I'm going to be here for the long haul. He's ready. He's not. Now that he's finally gotten to where he wants to be, he's not going to surrender and just let some young gun take it down. And because of that competitive edge that he's got, that he really wants to consistently stay the best and say, I'm just as great as all the people before me. That is why I agree with you that Ennis is not ready for this, because the intensity that Bud brings, that dog, as we say, that inner fight that he has to want to prove that he's best and how mean he is. When he flips that switch, they say Ray Leonard was a nice guy, but everyone that knows Ray Leonard said when he got in that ring, he flipped the switch and he wasn't Mr. Nice Guy anymore. Bud's the same way. He seems calm, demeanor, everything outside the ring. When you get in that ring, it doesn't matter anymore. He's there to win. He's there to win by beating you up. If you go the distance, he's beating you up. Otherwise, he knocks you out. And this isn't ready for that. He's never faced anybody that can do that.
I got a question, Chief. Do you think Crawford's chasing the 50-0 that Mayweather established, or he doesn't care?
I think if he gets to a point where, without losing, because since you put the O in here, and we're going to pretend the O's there no matter what. When he gets to a point without a loss, or the loss maybe what pushes him over, but let's say he doesn't lose. Whenever he's finally satisfied with what he's won, he'll walk away whether it's 50-0 or not. I don't think he cares that much so long as he can say, I've got all these championships and all these divisions of beating the best people. So long as he can say his record is comparable to Mayweather's, I think that's all he cares about. But at the moment, he's going to have to fight a lot more often than once a year to get that 50-0, because Mayweather, I think, was a little further ahead by 35. I think he had some more wins, so it was a little quicker for him to get there. And he was fighting twice a year, so that's technically twice as many fights as Bud's having each year. Well, it's literally twice as many. But to the point, I think if the opportunity is there for him to chase it, he'll get it. But if he's only fighting once a year because it's taking this long to put fights together, he'll retire without caring.
Now, that's the interesting, going back to the Jaron Ennis thing there is, because the other problem with fighting Crawford is, again, it's not just the speed, it's the power. Jaron Ennis has been stunned, I want to say at least, well, let's leave it at 2. He was stunned against a Dominican guy early in his career, and then Lipinets stunned him with a right hand. He just couldn't follow up on it because he was outgunned in that one. So I can only imagine what Crawford would do. Don't get me wrong. Look, you guys know I give everybody a chance. Sometimes I overrate their chances as well. And Jaron Ennis is a big guy, probably the biggest welterweight out there. I don't know how he makes weight. Probably not for long either if he's being inactive. But he's got hand speed, he's got power. But it's just like Jimmy said, untested chin. He actually has been tested, but we just don't know how he would handle Crawford's power. We don't know if he can make adjustments mid-fights against a guy this caliber and with the seasoning that Crawford has. And you know what? Somebody brought up an interesting point in the last night's episode's comment section. He said, punches, especially hard punches, freeze a guy momentarily. Even if the guy is used to taking punches, even if he's got a lot of experience, a hard punch physically, it's a reflex. It will freeze you. That's why some guys they get tired when they take too many punches, even if they're just arm punches. Amateurs do that. Rookies do that. When they take a bunch of punches, they're holding that air in, and that's how they get tired. And I just want to say something else. There's something called ultrasonic ultrasound. They say that tigers, when they growl, even the zookeepers who are accustomed to being around the animals for years, when they hear that roar from the tiger lion, there's a little slight second of freezing there. So it's a reflex. Taking a hard shot like that, that's a big reflex. And Crawford, that's what you saw with Spence in a way. He was just taking these big shots and he was getting frozen and he couldn't counter because that's not even his style countering. So he was just in a heap of trouble right there. But what about that? And just one last thing about the Jermell Charlo fight. If he would have fought Charlo 154, I think I agree with Jimmy. I think Crawford beats him because you saw what Tony Harrison did to Charlo in that first fight. He was jabbing him. He was one step ahead in the middle rounds. That's how he won the fight. Now imagine Crawford, who has a better chin than Tony Harrison, has better defense, and I dare say, even at 154, I think he might even crack harder than Tony Harrison. I think that power would carry up, like similar
absolutely.
similar to how Inouye's power carried up, right?
To your thing about freezing.
No, Jimmy, go ahead.
Well, I was going to add to what he brought up about the freezing. That absolutely is the truth. There was a kid I hated sparring, Richie Collins, because the kid just hit so fucking hard. You know what I mean? He wasn't trying to put you out or hurt you, but he just, hit so hard. It's like, and it does that. Fucking just takes a little out of you, and we always had sparring on Thursdays and Fridays at the gym I trained, and I hated the weekend having fucking jacks up faces up. But no, we always hit hard, so I hated sparring him, and it does freeze you. It absolutely for a split second. It just yeah. And the more times you get hit, the little less more it takes out of you, and that's why I said once people have been like stopped like that, like it bends like metal. Every time you bend it, it gets weaker in that spot, and it's the same thing with like. Spence now will get knocked out on a regular if he takes shit on the chin. I'm telling you.
I agree with you there, Jimmy. I think that, and I put this in one of the chats in one of the rooms I was in. This was a Lloyd Hunnigan, Donald Curry, Fernando Vargas, Felix Trinidad kind of a beating. To where I know I'm noting the fact that the reason why his legs weren't 100% and he was susceptible to so much punch damage was largely due to the weight. I get that. But even Diego Corrales, Floyd Mayweather. Diego Corrales, even though he still had heart, was never the same fighter. Even though his legs got better at 135 because he went that war for 10 rounds with Castillo, he was still never the same. Like, he either knew he had to try and avoid punches or he was just going to take them square on and do the best with them. Nothing was the same for him after that. Same with Robert Garcia against Diego Corrales. When you have certain beatings, and unless you're someone that's a rare enigma like Tommy Hearns, it's just like, this is part of the sport. I'm still going to be great. And he's one out of several. Donald Curry was an amazing fighter. People say he didn't have a chin. He took a buttload of punches from Lloyd Hunnigan. And Lloyd Hunnigan can crack. He took a buttload of punches before he got knocked out. And why was he weakened? By weight. And then he was never the same. He looked good for a few rounds against Mike McCallum, got knocked out with one shot. And then that was the finishing touch of what Lloyd Hunnigan did beforehand. Same with Fernando Vargas against Felix Trinidad. De La Hoya may have beaten him, but that was just the icing on the cake to what Trinidad had already done to him. Some of these beatings change fighters forever. And because Spence has had everything his way, and he's been calling champ ever since he turned pro, and they were hand-feeding him title fights against guys he knew he could beat that had no negotiation problems. There was no in or out of the ring challenges for it. It was just, okay, I'm going to go in and do my thing because I know I'm going to beat this guy, and they're feeding him people he knew he could beat. But now that he's stepped in with someone that he still thought he could beat and he couldn't, the second a fight gets tough, we're going to see what he's really made of. If he's ever going to be able to rewrite the script, which some people have done, or is he going to go along with like what Jimmy said, what 90% of the fighters do, and they're never the same. And it's like the fight was competitive, but they just came up short. They were great but not to mention he peaked at 27 when he beat Kell Brook. He's 33. He's not gotten any better.
Yeah,
so
like you said.
I hate to say it, but I think they've made their investment with him early, and they didn't do long-term investing by getting red divisions and other things that he could have been capable of. They left him here, and this is what we have left.
And like you said,
we'll see if he proves me wrong, but I'm not counting on it.
Like you said, for Vargas, that type of prolonged beating, and then on top of that, this Vargas was what, 23 or something like that? This guy's 33, and on top of that, the lifestyle that he has. So, yeah, man, absolutely. By the way, I've opened up
Well, I was going to say to his point, if you think about it, every time he fought anybody, and everybody wants to talk about how elite of an opponent Danny Garcia was, why was he always a 4-1, like 4-1, up? He was never even close to being in a 50-50 fight. He was always matched against somebody he was expected to win. It was just a question of how was he going to beat him. Of course he was going to beat Mickey Garcia, but will he stop him? No, he didn't. So that's when I learned right there about his power. Because you're dragging up a career 126-pounder to welterweight, and you don't stop him. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to question your power.
You can't even come close to putting him down. You know, I mean, you clearly beat him and you put hard punches on him. I'm not taking away the fact that he didn't beat Mikey up. He didn't beat Mikey up the way Chavez beat up, Edwin Rosario, or Trinidad did stop Vargas. Those were both stoppages. But a better example, the way Chavez did Camacho. That went the distance, but he beat Camacho up, right? He didn't beat Mikey Garcia up like that. He beat him, and he beat up on him in a way. He threw a lot of punches, a lot of them scored. But he didn't really beat up a featherweight. Now, you can put that as a test to how good Mikey could have been if he really dedicated himself the way he should have to boxing, because he was already a great fighter. He won titles in 4 weight classes. Not everybody does that. But he could have been better had he trained right and stayed in this division. He wasn't going to win that fight if they loaded his gloves. That's all there was to it.
No, and he tried to stop him. Now, here's the thing. I say it all the time, there was a larger size disparity between Spence and Garcia than it ever was between Rigondeaux and Lomachenko. In fact, Lomachenko had Rigondeaux had a longer reach by 3 inches, right? Yep. And while Lomachenko, and it's the same crew who backed Spence, well, they denounced, belittled, and ridiculed Lomachenko's win over Rigondeaux. It was the win over Garcia that propelled him to the fucking top pound-for-pound class. So the hypocrisy and the contradictions and having no standards, I think really took off for me there. That's when I was really like, wait a minute. Come on. Dude, what are you saying? How can you fucking say this don't mean shit? This doesn't prove nothing when he went with Rigondeaux, but your guy's getting pound for pound off it? It was a bigger size disparity, and the difference was he couldn't even stop him.
It's interesting because some people gave me flack for saying that. I said it once. I said, look, when Loma fought the smaller guy, he stopped him, made him quit. And he didn't even do it with size. But anyway, he made him quit. When Golovkin fought Kell Brook, he broke his eye socket. When Canelo fought the smaller Khan, knocked his ass out. That's what you're supposed to do with smaller guys. Now, the counter argument that people were giving me was, well, Mikey Garcia is better than those guys. Well, better or not, you can't tell me that those guys were bums, number one. Number two, if Spence really is that guy, he should have stopped a smaller, slower, shorter, fatter guy. And he didn't do that. Couldn't even waddle him. Couldn't even drop him. Now, I've opened up the phone lines so people can call in. Let's take a couple of phone calls and then we'll get back here because I also want to talk about the undercard. Let's go to 419.
That view.
Yeah, 419. You're in the air. 419. What's on your mind?
This is Raphael 32 calling out of Toledo.
Raphael, what's up, man?
We had a really great. What's up, y'all? We had a really great week of boxing. We started it off with what's his name, Inoue and Fulton. I believe Fulton still has a life in boxing. Inoue was just that much better than him, flat out. Like Rigondeaux, when he lost, you guys were just talking about that, when Rigondeaux lost to Lomachenko. After that, he still had a life in boxing. On that night, Lomachenko was just much better than Rigondeaux. Now, you had another great, you had Caleb Plant smacking the shit out of Charlo, and him not doing nothing, and like what just happened. And then you had the great Spence-Crawford beating the spikes out of Errol Spence. Errol Spence still has a life also. I believe he can do things at 154. A matter of fact, I believe he can beat Thurman. And now Tim Tszyu, I would say Spence and Tszyu is a 50-50 fight. I'm going to start it off like this. I'm going to start it off. You're not doing it until like Monday or whatever, but I'm going to start it off. The pound for pound, flat out, pound for pound. The top three fighters that are rule boxing right now and have been doing so for the past 2 years is Usyk, Inoue, and Crawford. Now, to me, people can rate those guys in any category that they want to, because all three of them are that good, and people forget. People are just focusing on Usyk's heavyweight career, but where did he come from? He came from cruiserweight, undisputed cruiserweight champion. So For me, I have it like this. I have Crawford as number one, anyway number two, and Usyk number three. But to be honest with you, if let's say if Jim said, well, I have anyway as number one, and Usyk as number two, and Crawford as number three, I wouldn't be mad with that because those are the top three guys in boxing right now. Canelo puts the asses in the seat. Canelo is not in the top three pound for pound anymore, and it's been like that for a minute. Canelo puts the asses in the seat. Those are the top three fighters in boxing right now.
All right, well, Rayfield, great call. And by the way, I don't know if I got the chance. I don't know if I got the chance to give you your props too, because you said Crawford round 9, and he was indeed round 9. So
sure
shout
did.
out to you.
Sure did. And I was tired. I was tired last night, but I was listening and I was contributing to the chat. I was telling you Friday. People are having and then somebody else mentioned it. It's hard to get on Discord open lines. You were saying you were going to put a tutorial up there. I didn't see it on Friday, but I'm not the only one saying it. It's hard to get on the Discord when you have the open lines, and that's the only complaint I have.
All right, well, I'll put definitely. You know what? I'm gonna put a tutorial on the community section. Our community. So if you go to the BDA YouTube channel, I'm gonna put it in the community section so that because if I put it on Discord, it's gonna get lost when people start posting. It's just gonna you're gonna have to scroll all the way back. So I'm gonna put it in the community section because I really want to get as many people as possible for that pound for pound show. By the way, you said one last thing. You said if Jimmy were to pick Inoue or whatever, you wouldn't be mad. That's gonna make for a boring show. I want people to get mad. I want people to,
right, right. But I'm just saying, to me, those are the top three pound for pound in boxing right now. Those guys rule boxing in my eyes, in my opinion. Everybody has their own opinion. So, and I kind of got rejuvenated over the sport too. I don't want to quit watching boxing. Crawford. I think he rejuvenated everybody, and anyway, with here, I think those two guys rejuvenated the sport again.
Go ahead, Jimmy. You were gonna say something, Jimmy?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm fuck. I was yelling at my wife to shut the door. She'll let my dog out. But no, if I could say something real quick, I agree with them. Listen, going into last night's fight, I said there's nothing Crawford could do to bump him way off. I'm like, you know what I mean? Nothing he could do. I'm recalibrating that after last night's performance. That kid did look that sharp, man. He looked that sharp. There's no way I would argue with it. If someone says, no, I'm going with Crawford, you know what I mean? I couldn't argue with it. Anyway, I do believe he has achievements. Right. He's fought a little better competition and destroyed them. But with the weight of that big event last night and to handle it the way he did, I wouldn't disagree with anybody. I'd have him right there, 1 and
Jimmy,
2. You know what I mean? Whatever way you want to put it.
From him, the
1-1
professionalism class, we don't have that anymore. The such class. He told Errol Spence, I needed you. Thank you for agreeing to fight me because Crawford did need him. He was so humble. It's just It was, I'm just glad to see a guy with class in there, family man.
Well, it's usually the guy with class, brother. It's usually the guy with class who's not going to do the stupid shit and do the punky things. Because even Spence, right? He wasn't as confident at the weigh-in, right? After the weigh-in, remember they did the face-off, and when Crawford turned to walk away, Spence did the when dogs after they take a shit, they kick the dirt with their back feet to cover their shit. He did that. I don't know if you saw that. And he did it when he got in the ring last night. He faced Spence's where Crawford's corner would be, and he did the same thing. Like he was kicking his dirt over shit. So he was doing the punky shit, saying stuff. So, yeah, Crawford handled himself with nothing but class from the beginning to the end.
All right. Well, listen, Rayfield, we're going to move on to another phone call here, but hope to hear from you on the Pound for Pound show later on this week. And yeah, check the YouTube community section for the tutorial. It's going to be 3 pictures that will highlight how to get in there. All right. Well, listen, Rayfield, thank you for your call, man.
Okay, I will, BDA. Thank you very much.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Take it easy out there.
Bye.
All right. That was Rayfield, 33. I think that's the 33. Let's go back to our phone call. Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like, hit the like, hit the like. Subscribe if you've yet to subscribe already. And shout out to Tyronello Rap Music Only for his contribution to Super Chat. He says, when Nello smashes Charlo Bros, they'll still cry pound for pound. Yeah, I suspect, depending on how he does it, some people are going to say that, but how much credit do you get beating a guy, even if he's the champ? I mean, it's a good accomplishment, but it pales in comparison to what Inoue and the Crawford just did here. So, I mean, that's just the reality, man. Let's go to another phone call here. Let's go to 336. 336, you're on the air. 336, what's on your mind?
Yo, BDA, it's the Fire Fist again.
Oh,
so
Fire Fist, what's up,
so
man?
Jimmy, you were right, 1,000,000%. Yeah, I had picked Spence, UD, and the reason was, even though Spence had a lot of footwork issues with the wide stance, I thought his first step would be enough, as it's shown against other fighters, to lead the jab, to win the jab battle, and that would take away from some of the sting of Crawford's right hook, which was a fucking killer last night. So he lost the jab battle, and the fight was over, right? And I think that was pretty apparent. What ended up happening was, he just got picked apart from the outside, really. I mean, and at any range, it just didn't matter. He was outgunned and outclassed. So Crawford proved without question to me that, he is an elite fighter. He's one of those guys where only size or age can beat him. I think Tim Tszyu is a better fighter than Errol Spence because we did to Tony Harrison. I mean, he completely outclassed that guy. Tony Harrison beat Charlo once, and he was ahead before getting knocked out against Charlo in the second fight. But Tony Harrison, I mean, he got completely destroyed by Tim Tszyu. So I think Tim Tszyu's is Crawford's best fight right now, because I think Jermel's going to lose, and I think Tim Tszyu beats Jermel anyways. That's just my opinion on that. So he's one or two, it doesn't matter. I do agree with Jimmy that Inoue does have the better resume, and this isn't Crawford's fault. So if you look at guys like Loma, Inoue, Usyk, they got Hall of Famers on their resume, and they probably will end up putting Spence on there because he was, maybe 7-0 in world title fights, but he didn't fight elite guys. He never cemented himself as the best fighter of his weight class, and that showed last night. I mean, that's just my opinion on it. He's, I think, let's say if Loma were to beat Navarrete, because I'm picking Navarrete to beat Valdez. That's a 3-weight world champ who's 10-0 with over 83% knockout ratio. Crawford is as good or could be better than Loma, and same with Inoue, but I think Loma's still the most accomplished fighter in the sport. And let's talk about the wide stance thing real quick. Haney made a lot of great adjustments from the Kambosos fight, because I was on here months ago saying Haney's going to get stopped because of his wide stance. He won't be able to activate his feet. But he showed in the beginning of the fight, he made that adjustment immediately to not let Loma get his lateral work off. Now, Loma made subtle lateral movements in the fight to land the left hand, but he wasn't able to attack his weak side the way he wanted to because Haney improved. Haney is a better fighter than Stephen Fulton and Errol Spence Jr. I don't like saying that because I don't like Haney, and I think Prograis a little bit past it at this point. I'm picking Haney to beat Prograis. I do think Haney has shown a lot of improvements, and he's, Top Rank is where the killers hang, man. And that's the reality of it. The premier ball chokers and the PBC, they just can't fuck with Top Rank.
I mean, that should be Top Rank's byline. This is where the real killers hang. Well, listen, Firefest, man, we got to move on to our phone call here. But
saying, man.
You made some excellent points in the short amount of time there, man. Firefist, shout out to you, man. Always good to hear from you.
Thank you, guys. I think Crawford's an amazing fighter. I hope, there's some better competition out there. It's not his fault, man. He's in a really weak era of 140 and 147. It's not his fault. It really isn't. So I want to see him with someone that can really test him, because I think that's what he wants to. He's one of those guys where I don't think he wants to retire undefeated. He's got that throwback mentality. I'm going to go out on my shield like an all-time great, like Nonito did last night. He's got to lose and know he's not the best anymore to quit fighting. That's just the man he is, in my opinion. Yeah. So that's all I got to say. Deuces, guys.
All right, Fireface. Thank you for your call, man. Great points. Call back next time. Always good to hear from the Fireface. Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like. Really helps us out. We're taking a couple of phone calls here. Then I want to talk about Donaire. 860, you're on the air. 860, what's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, BDA? I want to apologize for last night. I was a little sauced up after the fight. I had some unpleasant words, and you were kind of like tripping on me. So let me apologize for that. I know it's Sunday.
Were you the guy that was talking about the 6? Were you the guy that was saying that it wasn't 6 million? It was more like 600,000 in the Holocaust. Was that you or?
No.
Okay.
No, that was not me. Hell no. I don't get into those kinds of debates on hell no.
Well, it's a new day, man. So what's up?
So I think you. I also talked to you on either Friday or Thursday when you had a call-in show, and you marked me down for Coach Watt. I had rounds 8 to 10 Bud stoppage.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I believe I remember that. Yeah.
You had. I don't know if you had that. Okay. Yeah. So, as far as what's next for Bud, I think that Tim Tszyu is going to be his most viable option. I think that if they serve boots up to Bud right now, I think that it could be real ugly for him. It could be like a Erickson Lubin kind of situation when he fought Jermell Charlo. So I'm almost positive that Boots is not ready for that kind of warfare right now because Bud is on a whole different level. I think that Tim Tszyu and Bud is going to be a good fight. I still think Bud is going to stop him in 10 rounds because it's still the same thing. Tim Tszyu is just a better version of Errol Spence. He's a better, younger, fresher, stronger pressure fighter. But because he is a pressure fighter, he's going to leave himself vulnerable again. He's going to get hit with shit you don't see. And he's going to eventually lead to his demise as well. I'm torn between Tim Tszyu and Jermell Charlo. I can see how somebody could edge Tim Tszyu because again, Tim Tszyu is a little bit more fresher. He's a little younger, but I think Jermell ultimately has some counters in his ability as well to be able to get him out with a left hook or a strong right hand as well. So I'm a little torn between that. I think the Jermell Charlo fight between Bud is out because he's going up to 168, and I don't think it's going to be advantageous for him to come back down to 154 after he fights with Canelo. So I'm thinking that Tim Tszyu is going to be the main guy in his next match.
Yeah, man, those are some good points right there, man. We'll see what happens with Crawford too. What type of options he's got? Jaron Ennis definitely, like you said, needs more seasoning. He needs more seasoning if he wants to even compete with these guys. Right. Well, listen, good for you to yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead, man.
But I still want to campaign and harp on the fact that number one, Usyk should not be in the pound for pound because he's a heavyweight, and I love Usyk. I think he's a phenomenal fighter. But the pound for pound list again, I think I've told you this before. Like the pound for pound list was not made for heavyweights. It was made for everybody outside of the heavyweight because it's pound for pound. So like Usyk is one of the greatest fighters in the world. We already know that he's one of the best fighters I've ever seen. I love Usyk, but pound for pound, he's not that because he's a heavyweight. Kind of like Tyson Fury. I would never put Tyson Fury on the pound for pound list. He's 280 pounds. Like we know a 6'9" man is the best fighter out of all these guys. Like we don't need to say that. Like we don't need to say Usyk is a better fighter than Bud Crawford. He would beat up Bud Crawford. That's why again the pound for pound list is light heavyweight and under. So I always trying to bring up my boy Dimitri Bivol. Dimitri Bivol is highly overlooked. I never hear anybody on the show ever mention him in the pound for pound list. Again, I'm kind of tired of hearing Loma's name. Loma had an awesome career, but like, come on now, like he's already taken losses. Whether you like the losses or not, they're debatable. Yes, I get that, but hey, you know what? A loss is a loss. We're talking about the pound for pound list with guys who are like accomplishing great things. Even Better Biev. I have not heard Better Biev's name either. Like both of those guys, in my opinion, are top four. I got NOA Bud in no order. NOA Bud, Bivol, and Better Biev.
Well, I'll tell you what, man,
look what those guys have done. They're literally running through everybody.
Yeah, that's good. That's why it's going to be fun to do that pound for pound show during the week because people are going to have their say on their pound for pound list. Well, listen, Coach Watt, we got to move on here, man. But thank you for your call and call back next time, all right?
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you for calling in there. All right, yeah. See, that's an interesting thing. That Beterbiev, Bivol, those are two guys that. But again, have they been too active enough? That same thing with Usyk. I respect what Usyk did, and last year I had him number one pound for pound after beating Joshua, but he hasn't fought since. And then he's gonna fight Dubois, who's a bigger guy. But anyway, let's go back to another phone call here real quick. Let's go to 619. Hold on a second. Is this working? 619. You're on the air. 619. What's on your mind?
Yeah. What's up? What's up, guys? This is Jose.
Oh, Jose, what's up, man?
What's up, man? Yeah, this is Gonzalo's brother. Before I'm going to see the comments, people are going to be like, is this Gonzalo's brother? Is this a joke? Hey,
no, we know it's no joke, man.
I want to give my thoughts on last night's fight, man. It's pretty simple, man. I think Bud Crawford was just Bud Crawford. He did what he always did. And what happened with Spence, we all know that he's a pressure fighter that goes from less to more. His engine starts, he works off his jab. So basically what Crawford did was he counterpunched him and, took his jab away from the get-go. That's why Errol Spence could not get going. Very simple. It was a style clash. There's no mystery about it. And when he knocked him out, he counterpunched him as well. Before he knocked him out, when the prior knockdown before he got him out of there, he hit him with an uppercut when Spence was coming on with, I believe it was an overhand right. He hit him much like Crawford hit Jose Benavidez with the uppercut that he did not see coming, and it was lights out. So it's very simple. And I don't know what you were talking about when you said about Spence's lifestyle. The man changed his life after the accident. He wasn't he didn't party like he did before. I don't know if you saw the All Access. He had a dietitian. He made weight the right way. So I don't know what you guys are talking about. You guys don't see the All Accesses or what?
Jose,
Okay,
I think I saw the
as-
All Access. Jose, I saw the All Accesses. I think what you missed was Errol Spence getting wasted at a Virgil Ortiz fight and having a grown man grinding him from behind. I think you also missed the "Do you want to go to Dubai" video. Do you remember? Do you know what I'm talking
When was
about?
that,
Do you
bro?
want to go to Dubai video?
When was that? That was that wasn't during this training camp.
Yeah, but Jose, you know boxing. You know that you can train your
Going
ass off
way
for
back
2
to
weeks.
the future, bro. That's like back to
Jose,
the future, bro.
Jose, you can train your ass off for 2 months, but if you were before that, if you spent 8 months, 12 months, 22 months drinking, taking fucking Quaaludes and all that, because I thought he had to be on something in that Dubai
I
video.
believe the man changed his life around after the accident. Who wouldn't, man? The guy.
You can believe that, but
it has nothing to do with that. It's like I told you, it was a style matchup, and he lost. Okay, now we'd like to move on from that. And if Spence performed less than spectacular, I know nobody's talking about it right now, but I'm going to go get ahead of this. Isaac Cruz, he won split decision against a good fighter. He took an O. He took away an undefeated. And I keep hearing the same old fucking comments. Even Devin Haney was out there commenting, Cruz is shit. And even before the fight, Ryan Garcia was calling out fucking Cruz. Oh, yeah, we were going to fight. This dude has fucking Tank Davis problems, man. Fucking David Haney has fucking Lomachenko problems, man. This dude is a pillow-fisted fighter, man. I don't dislike him, but he's fucking boring, man. He's fucking boring. He's going to get knocked out by Regis Prograis at 140 pounds. Everybody has off night. Regis had an off night. Spence had an off night. Pitbull does not knock the guy out, and people are going to be talking all kinds of shit. He was giving you knockouts before this, 2 straight knockouts. He beat the guy. He outboxed him. People saying he can't box. How did he win? How did he win if he does not know how to box? Please explain that to me. I'm tired about the fucking Tank Davis hand excuses. I never saw no fucking receipts. If he broke his hand on Pitbull's head, that's his problem. Yeah, as far as that's all fucking excuses, man. Tank Davis looked like shit. He didn't hurt Pitbull. Pitbull
we got it.
Debatable.
Jose, we got it.
Decision to Tank, whatever, man.
Jose,
everybody's allowed to have off nights except Pitbull, even though he won an outbox an undefeated fighter who was a foot taller than him.
Can I ask Jose one quick question? What top light heavyweight does Cruz beat?
You're gonna have to re-ask the
Top
question.
Lightweight. Okay, here's my take on what's your name? I forgot. Jimmy. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jimmy. Much respect to you.
No, sorry.
Okay. Everybody has a right to market their career. Everybody has a right to make a name for themselves. Tank Davis has a right to fight Ryan Garcia and build up his name, and everybody thinks he's the next best thing since sliced bread. Fucking Tank Davis, Isaac Cruz is building his name as well. He's been fighting, he's been beating people in Mexico or what have you. That's not the point. Ryan Garcia loves clout chasing, so does, you know what I mean?
Listen, I agree with everything you're saying, but I'm just saying, honestly, do you think he can beat what do you think he'd do against Shakur even fucking Keyshawn Davis or any of those guys.
I
Even
understand.
Frank Martin. Do you think he beats him?
He's not going to beat everybody.
Jose, try to make
Yeah, I
try to make
understand
your
what you're saying. But
try to make your answer brief because I got to move on to
Let's-
other phone calls here. We're running out of time. Go ahead, Jose. Try to make it brief, please.
Okay. Okay. As far as that, yeah, he is right. He's not gonna. He's gonna lose like other fighters have lost in the past. But the guy is building his way. You know, fucking Shakur's doing it right now. He's fucking ducking Haney or whatever. Let's talk about that.
What?
Everybody wants to apply the business of boxing, but only to their fighters. They only want to attack the guy, you know, who they want to attack. Yes, I'm Mexican. Pitbull is my fighter, and that's what it is. And
right.
fucking
Well,
Haney's
listen,
gonna get knocked out by Regis Prograis, and fucking and that's what it is. Haney and Ryan Garcia need to shut the fuck up and fucking go back to train with Derek James, and fucking you know, stop clout chasing, man. Worry about your next fight. Stop worrying about Pitbull. All these guys just want the attention, man. That's what I'm sick and tired of. You can't see another man shine.
All right, Jose.
They always want to steal the fight, man. I'm sick of that, bro.
Well, don't get too sick. It's
you
only
know,
boxing, man.
Big
It's
ups.
only boxing.
I wanted to see Spence win. Big ups to Bud Crawford. That's all
All
I
right.
got.
Shout out to you,
Peace
Jose.
out.
Thank you for your call. Call back
I'm
next time. man.
Gonzalez,
Take it easy.
brother.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are, man. All right, shout out to Jose, man. Thank you for your call, man. Take it easy out there. Call back next time. All right, that was Jose. Yeah, we can't be going. We can't take too much time up with one single phone call because they're coming in here now. Let's go to, and don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like, hit the like, hit the like. Really helps us out. Let's go to 773. 773, you're on the air. 773, what's on your mind?
Yeah, you got a one bone to pick with the previous cruiser. He said Usyk is not pound for pound because he's heavyweight. Are you forgetting he's a cruiserweight? He's way undersized. He's undersized, beating up these big ass dudes. So that's just that point is totally null, voided, set aside. I just totally exposed that take because that dude's undersized, 215 pounds, going up against monsters. Just ridiculous take right there. I'll tell you this one. Errol Spence. I don't like the excuses. No, he was overweight or he cut too much weight and just bullshit excuses. He came in and he got beat down by the better fighter. Leave it at that. As I said in the other call, I never rated Spence. I never put him up in pound for pound. Thought he's a good fighter. He's a champion fighter, but I'm talking about the best fighters in the world. Pound for pound is reserved for number 1, number 2, number 3 in the world. This dude ain't top 10. He's probably like top 18. I put him at like 18, somewhere around there.
Jesus.
What else I got to say? Crawford, I said his wrestling would be the difference. And we saw that. He came from a wrestling background in high school. Very good wrestler. I saw when he got on the inside, it made a hell of a difference, the physicality. Spence wasn't used to that. He used to be in the bigger, more physical athlete. He ran into someone in matches, even superior in the physicality department. We saw that. So, Spence, the question of the title is, did he get exposed? He got exposed big time, boys. He got exposed big time. I mean, they were really gassing this dude up. And, I mean, just for him to go out like that, not even competitive. I really like the way Crawford, there's no questions. There's no questions. No judges there to rob him. He went out there and handled business, took him out cleanly.
All right. Well, listen, K-Dog, man. Good call, man. And
that was on point, brother.
You bring up the thing about Usyk, you will have your chance to have your say. Everyone will if they join the Discord and for the special, what you call it? Yeah, Open Lines Midweek show where we're going to be talking pound for pound. Everybody bring your best arguments, bring your evidence because we're going to get down to that. And I'm going to be putting up a page, a list, and we're going to be able to slide in names so you can make your pound for pound list and make your best case about why you have each guy in each position. Well, anyways, listen, K-Dog, thank you for your call, man. We're going to move on here and call back next time, right, man? Take it easy out there.
Better believe it, buddy.
All right. I understood what he said at the end there. That was Kevin from Chicago, a.k.a. K-Dog. Let's go back to another phone call here. But before we do that, let me just read a super chat here. Shout out to Tyronello Rap Music Only, who says, what's he saying here? He says, Canelo unified 168 in a year with guys all bigger than him, but Spence unified in only 6 years while Canelo was going for his second 175-pound challenge. Well, that's an interesting point right there. Like I said, you guys are going to have your chance to make your case in the midweek show. And shout out to Sir Unai Emery for his contribution to Super Chat. He says, is this Gonzalo's wrench? Well, I don't understand the slang with the wrench, but yeah, that was Gonzalo's brother Jose, who's got moxie. He's tired of certain things. He said he's sick of the certain pound for pound thing. So we gotta get him on the panel as well there for the show. Maybe him and Gonzalo can go out a little bit. They're twins, so there's always that rivalry.
No, that's why I moved to the Philippines, BD.
Nah, come on.
I'm good with that.
All right, man. Let's go back to the phone lines here. Let's go to 337. 337, you're on the air. 337. What's on your mind?
Yo, what's up, man? It's Dead Game Boxer, man. Just coming through. Just take about 30 seconds of your time, man. What's good?
What's up, Dead Game? What's up, man? I hope you're doing fine, man.
Man, doing great, man. Just watched the epic fight. I'm ranking Bud all time one of the greatest at 147 ever.
Oh.
It was just a spectacular performance. I think in our generation, I think we could use Bud Crawford and stick him in there with anybody in anybody else's generation.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I feel. With his skills and what he does in the ring, bro, he's just next level, man. I'm just trying to understand what Shakur Stevenson was talking about. I understand distance, but there's something that they know. It's something that they work on with this distance and know what punches to throw in the right range, bro. That just makes it damn near hard. Unless you know how to do it, you're going to get beat. And if somebody with power that know how to do what they doing, it's something about the distance, bro. It's something about controlling the distance. I know you say the jab. Some people are going to say it's the jab, but I don't know. I think it's foot placement. But I don't know, bro. It's just something spectacular to watch. And, man,
If I may,
I was just totally happy. Go ahead.
you're right about that. Controlling distance has as much to do with feet as it does the jab. But it's an encompassing thing of several skills, and timing is also part of it. But you're absolutely right. There's foot placement has a lot to do with it. I just want to put that.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, man, because I don't know what it is, bro. I watch boxing, bro, and I understand the distance, but what they doing in the ring, I just can't catch it. You know, it's something. I know it's something simple. But whatever they doing, Shakur, Bud, whatever they working on, Andre Ward kind of had it, Floyd had it. It's just, you know, if you have power behind your shots and you can do that shit, because Shakur really don't have that much power, and he's still doing it. And he's just athletic ability and just that distance is just something that I'm trying to figure out.
Well, slow it down, man. If you slow it down, slow motion, you can usually catch a lot of what they're doing, and you get a better sense of that. But yeah, these guys do it every day, and on top of that, they're skilled. So that's how it works over there, man. It's a second nature to them. Well, listen, Dead Game. Anything else you want to say before we move on?
Nah, man, that's it, bro. Just come and say what's up to you guys, bro. That's it. Peace out, man. I'll call back another time. Peace.
All right, take it easy out there, Dead Game. Good to hear from you. All right, that was Dead Game right there, calling in, giving us his thoughts on the footwork. And yeah, like Chief said, it's a combination of footwork, jab, gauging the distance. The MMA guys really need to understand that they think it's all just punching, a lot of them. They don't understand distance all that well, which is hard to master, by the way. Don't forget to hit the like. Let me see. We got some super chats here. And by the way, shout out to Sir Unai Emery, who said that. Oh, yeah, that's what he was saying. He was saying that Gonzalo's brother had called in a while back when he was drunk, because he said he was a moderator for Gonzalo. I think I remember that now that you mentioned it. Now I get your previous super chat. Shout out to Sir Unai Emery for the clarification. Let's go back to the phone lines here. Let's go to 210. 210, you on the air. 210, what's on your mind?
Yo, BDA, Texas, Anthony, what's up?
Oh, Texas Anthony, what's up, man?
No, I feel a couple other calls, man. I called in. I was feeling good. I was buzzing. It was a fun night, man. But I stand by what I said, last night. Appreciate you coming on late. You know what I mean? I know everybody was just, excited just full of energy after the fight, because it was such a great performance, and especially along the lines of, the way we think, I think a lot of your listeners tend to share the same views and opinions with the state of boxing, Crawford, you know, the way everything is. So everybody just wanted to it's like a release. It was like vindication for a lot of things you guys have been saying, a lot of things that we've been saying, you know. And I know like the other types of channels, it's a total opposite. But I think, did you notice in the beginning when Spence was really thrown off because he's a bigger guy, he's used to just kind of pushing people around the ring. As soon as he stuck his shoulder into Bud, trying to just push him back on his heels, Bud didn't budge, man. I'm talking about that country strength kicked in, and they're talking about how he wrestles. I know a couple of callers just said it right now, how he's wrestling background, and he's just strong. I mean, I don't know if it's tendon strength, maybe, you know, your co-host has something to say about that. I know he knows a lot about the weightlifting and all that, but like he could not budge Bud backwards. Did you catch that?
I did indeed, man. In the clinch, he had him in a vice grip, and Spence couldn't get. And Spence, even though he's wiry, he's strong too, but he just couldn't match up with Crawford's physicality in there.
Yeah, man. So it's crazy to see where we go from here. And no, I just had to call in. I was listening again. I was like, oh, they're back on. Cool. let me chime in. But hey, that's all I got to say, man. I said a lot last night. I appreciate y'all staying, man. Yeah, man, big win. I'm back into boxing. We saw a lot of robberies, and I like Jimmy and everybody said, man, it kind of rejuvenates you from after what we've seen from Inouye and Spence, man. So I'm happy, man. You guys have a good Sunday, and hey, man, you know, Jake Paul next.
Yeah, Jake Paul. That's the real fight. That's the fight of the real fight of the century right there. All right, listen, Sean. Tex Anthony. Thank you for your call. Call back next time, right, man? Take it easy out there.
All right, man.
Let me go back. I see we got a couple more phone calls, but I want to go back to the panel here because these guys have been waiting here. Well, first of all, what about that? I think we touched on it a little bit about the Terence Crawford's strength and how when he was clinching Spence or even just moving him around with his shots, I mean, he was moving him around. What about that, guys? And I'll be right back. You guys take over for a little bit.
Well, I noticed in either the first or second round where they tried to go in for a clinch, Spence's elbow was up high and Bud's arm got underneath it and he just pushed him off. That to me reminded me of the sixth round when Porter tried to out wrestle Bud and they went to lock up and Bud put him on half Nelson and threw him into the ropes. Just shows me the fact that he was physically the stronger guy, and people thought because Spence looks taller and broader and he'd been fighting at the weight longer and he'd been beating up Danny Garcia, which again I don't know what kind of goalposts they were reading into on that they thought that this was going to be he was the bigger, stronger guy. He clearly was not. I do believe a lot of it had to do with the weight. I don't think that they realized the weight was going to drain him that badly. But Bud was going to beat him regardless, and he was going to be out-muscle him regardless. I think Spence just would have made it more competitive if this fight would have been 2 years ago. Jimmy, what's your thoughts?
No, I agree with you on the strength. He's a wiry kid. He wrestles, I said, and he's just, for his frame, he's very strong. And he even got the face for boxing. But I'm going to be honest, dude, it's not that these guys underestimated the weight train or most of those guys are at least the loudest ones on social media on boxing fans. And as that tape that Mr. BDA just played, it's ideology to them. It's a cult. That's driven by hatred. It's driven. They follow. Remember, they're backing Spence because he was an Al Heyman fighter, and when Bud was with Top Rank. That's all the evidence and breakdown they need. And whatever narrative they drove from that was all based off that. Appeal to authority, fucking strawman arguments, ad hominem attacks. That's all they have. Everything based off their feelings, nothing based off on facts. And it all came back to blow up in their face last night.
To me, it also goes back to people that you can tell really don't follow boxing. Now, here's what I mean by that. These people probably watch every U.S. fight there is. But when there's the same people, and this is a hypothetical because I haven't listened to every person and I don't know every last person who had an opinion. But for the most part, what's going to happen is these same people were probably high on Fulton because he's an American fighter. They know nothing about Inouye. They think he fought a bunch of people and dodged an entire division at 115. They don't follow timelines. They're Cliff Notes mainstream fight fans that know every mainstream name in America. And so then when it comes down for following somebody, if their guy doesn't represent that area, like you said, PBC, and if they don't follow that, then nobody's fighter is as good as their favorites. And when I was a kid, and given a lot of these people that are doing this now are grown men, but when I was a kid, I was that way big time with Julio Cesar Chavez. I didn't think anybody could beat Chavez. I thought that the numbers spoke for themselves. As I got to know boxing, I started to change things, and I still think he's a great fighter. And at 140, he's probably the greatest there ever was. But at the same time, I know that Kostya Tszyu, if in that magical thing of putting them both in their prime, would have given him one serious match. When I was a kid, I didn't think that. Now that I know how to study the sport, and these people that don't know how to see this, they don't follow the sport.
Yeah. And it starts from all angles and all levels and people even in the industry. For instance, Leonard Ellaby. Good old Leonard, fucking nostril dumbass. Before the Inoue fight, for instance, Ray Jackson, Inoue, the so-called monster, has major trouble with 45-year-old Donaire. Fulton's about to make that shit look easy. And then Ellaby quote tweeted it, Scooter gonna beat that ass with a flexed black arm. Bingo. So kind of tells you what's going on there. Then he also, I was just watching Social tweeted, this is back in 21, Fulton the Monster Slayer, who at 22 pounds, cool boy, says he could wipe him out, but could he? And all of a sudden, Leonard Ellaby quote tweets, not all of a sudden, but he quote tweets, cool boy Flesh speaking big facts. No, he goes, you're speaking big facts. There's no way in holy hell, Bruce, at the time, Bruce Templer, Tripler, who's now with the UFC, was with Top Rank then, but would ever put him in that fight. Inoue's good fighter who's been matched exceptionally well, meaning he's been matched soft. Scooter would wipe him out. Just imagine him talking about matching somebody soft. So that's him. So basically, now, after, of course, Inoue gets wiped out Fulton, so now he's catching all kinds of shit on Twitter. People are just roasting him. And all of a sudden, his tweet was somebody, he tweets out, wow, what an incredible performance. He's what they say he is. He's a monster, man. I was wrong. Props to the champ. Okay, so somebody tweeted, glad to see you enough of a man to come back and say you were wrong. He goes, man, that was special. Takes a lot to impress me. And do you know how hard it is to do that? And he did he made me a fan 100%. So you're admitting you knew nothing of him. You knew nothing of Inoue. You're admitting in your tweet that this is the first time you've ever watched him fight, but yet you were willing to tweet out, Scooter gonna beat that ass, and and just, shit talk him and throw up the fucking black thing and stay woke. So do you see what I'm saying? It was that. That's what it was driven by. And it even happens all the way up from fucking, the people at Showtime. So it was, anyway.
Well, I mean,
you would think that was funny.
When you go to ESPN, one of the biggest people that actually calls boxing for them is Stephen A. Smith. Now, when that man talks basketball, I'm going to listen because that's where he got his name off of is reporting basketball from the beginning. He knows the guys, he talks to them and everything else. And I don't know what he knows about football because everyone is a Monday morning quarterback when it comes to that sport. Only a few people really know how to break things down, and I'm not one of them. So he may know that. But when I hear him talk about boxing, I know he's nothing more than a mainstream Cliff's Notes guy that only knows American fighters. And if he knows a foreign fighter, it's the flavor of the month foreign fighter, Triple G. Now he knows Inoue. But a year ago or 2 years ago, I guarantee you he didn't know Inoue. You and I have been talking about Inoue since what? I joined this show in 2019? So, yeah, we've been talking about him all the way back then. But most people weren't. And we were, most people were saying, oh, he's a good little fighter. Now we're realizing he's an exceptional lighter weight fighter who, like Bud Crawford, can be dropped in any era within his weight divisions and compete with any of them.
I mean, listen,
that's including Ricardo Lopez.
That's what I'm saying is here, when we do the pound for pound show, I ask people to bring their A game. Think things through. Think why you have one guy in the slot that you're going to give him. Because if you just come in and you say, well, this guy fought nothing but nobodies, I mean, that's just a blanket statement that I've heard casuals make. You're going to have to come up with something better than that. Because other people, we're going to allow different people to give in their pound for pound list. And if they give a better argument about it, it might make other people look a little bit ignorant. So just, if you say, I don't know, just say, I don't know. That's the thing. You can't judge a fight. Like Jimmy said, that's the most basic thing out there. If you haven't seen the guy fight, how can you fucking judge him? And that's what we were seeing from a lot of these people. Gonzalo,
The reason PDA that I would include heavyweights, I was listening to what I think his name is Coach Watts. I would put him on there is because the heavyweights, there's certain things that they can't do as good as the little guys. Obviously, we're not talking about how the little guy's gonna beat up the bigger guy, no, but when we talk about what the little guys can do better, obviously they got more nimble feet and hands, they can throw more punches. And when a heavyweight can do that too, you gotta say, oh, that dude got skills, like Tyson Fury, how he moves the feet and the hands, he got quick hands. So that's why I would put him on there, because there's certain things that you could also say about them.
yeah, that's an excellent point, man. And like I said, that we're going to be talking about that more. And if anybody wants to make the case for why they include heavyweights in the pound for pound list, I would certainly be welcome to hear that. That's going to be your chance, guys, to give us your arguments for that. Let's go back to the phone lines here real quick. Don't forget to hit that like, fellas. Hit the like. Really helps us out. All right. Let's go back to 857. 857, you're on the air. 857, what's on your mind?
Oh. Can you hear me?
Yes, 857, what's up?
BDA, can you hear me?
Yes, 857, I can hear you, man. Go ahead.
All right. First time calling, man. You guys are one of the better boxing podcasts. Love you guys.
Oh.
That was a masterclass by Crawford. That was a complete masterclass. I want to know your guys' opinion. What you think was more impressive, Inoue's victory or Crawford's?
Ooh, well, that's the big question, ain't it? Who wants to take that one?
I'll start. I'm definitely, as much as I loved what Bud did, in a way, he's come from a lighter weight. He's come up more pounds. All right, I started to say that I'm not going to calculate it right now. He's come across a lot of weight classes, and he's fought everybody in his way. And I know it's not Crawford's fault that he couldn't fight everybody, because a lot of guys didn't want to do business with Bob Arum. Spence, again, was not quote unquote weight drained by something that Crawford put in the contract, but he wasn't 100%. And again, I've gone on record saying he would have beat him anyway. But Inoue's fought everybody at the top of their games. No one's been weight drained. No one's been past their prime that I know of, and that's why I've just got to put him on top. But what Bud did is exactly what you're supposed to do with a fighter that doesn't belong in the ring with you. You give them a one-sided butt kicking, and you send them out on a stretcher and say, "God be with you. I'm still better."
Now, may I say this before anyone else goes? Inoue, there is a bit of a knock on him, is that he didn't fight Chocolatito Estrada, Sorong Visay. So that's going to be interesting to hear what people have to say about that this coming
I'll take
show.
that one up on Monday.
Exactly, yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know if it's going to be Monday, but it's definitely going to be midweek, absolutely. But yes, anyone else want to take that one as well?
Well, yeah, I would say, honestly, I agree with Chief. Listen, he went up. Remember, he just had unified 118, had never even fought at 122, never mind having an easy fight, went in and targeted the consensus best fighter in that division, who's in his physical prime, who is an extremely talented boxer. Against anybody else in that division, it's a fight. Who fights Fulton? And made him look ordinary. So, yeah, for that reason, absolutely, I got Inoue as a better performance. The magnitude, obviously, in America, it's going to be the welterweight fight here, but I'm not trying to dog Crawford's performance. I mean, it was unbelievable. He did unbelievable last night. He was dialed in, man. That was years worth of anger put into that fight.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
And
To me,
I also got to say, I didn't
performances.
expect two one-sided ass whoopings from both fights. For both the big fights this week, I didn't expect them to be so one-sided.
All right, man. Well, anything else, caller?
Jimmy. I love Jimmy's analysis. I used to live up in Quincy. I just love Jimmy's analysis. I love the Massachusetts accent.
Quincy, boy, that's South Shore guy. Thanks for calling, bro. Call back.
All right, brother. Yeah, I'll be calling in again. I love you guys. You guys are great. Talk to you later.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. Take it easy out there.
Thank you.
Hey, Jimmy, you should start an ASMR channel. You know those ASMR where people just talk and whisper and then they fucking touch things. You should do that one. Lowell edition. Talk about, the cops are coming. Yeah, I heard they nabbed the Connolly brothers. Shit, those Connolly brothers were good, man. What the fuck? All right, that's just an idea. I don't know. I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying it's an idea.
Funny.
Let's go.
Well, it's funny.
For all the wrong reasons, maybe. All right. Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like, hit the like, hit the like. Really helps us out. Let's go back to the phone calls here. Let's go to, who else was here? Where are the phone lines? 803. 803, you're on the air. 803, what's on your mind?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, 803, what's up?
Yeah, what's going on, man? This is HBTC, long time no talk. What's going on,
Oh,
gentlemen?
HBTC, man. What's up, man?
What's up? Nothing much, nothing much. Yeah, watched the fights last night. Just want to pose, I want to start off with one question. This was supposed to be the match to determine pound for pound. When has there ever been such a highly supposed competitive matchup where it was a one-sided ass whooping with 50% of the punches landed? It went exactly the way I thought it would in terms of the outcome. I thought Crawford would win. So did my boys. My boys actually made money off of the fight.
Oh.
Spence, I'm not going to say he's on the same skill level with the other fighters I'm about to mention, but they're from the same type of cloth. And I'm going to mention two names just because they were in the same time period. One is Juan Diaz and one is Casitas. Again, I'm not saying Spence is on the same level. I think Spence is a better fighter than those two gentlemen. But at the time, a lot of hype behind those two guys. Come forward, pressured fighters, won titles. But as soon as they went up against somebody that knew what they were doing and had different gears, they got exposed. That was, for their case, Juan Manuel Marquez, and for Spence's case, Crawford. Spence is a one-track-minded fighter. Blade his stance, come forward, throw his jab, try to establish that, and once he gets that going, once he gets his distance, come inside, go to the body, and throw recklessly. He has one plan, plan A, and that's it. He had success with that throughout his whole career, but as soon as he went up against somebody a la Crawford that knew how to nullify that, he had no plan B. And that's what separates the greats from the all-time greats, or the very good from the greats to the all-time greats. Spence, last night, showed he was a very good fighter. Crawford showed he was an all-time great. He had an answer for Spence's plan A. Spence couldn't do anything but plan A. Crawford has plan B, C, D, and whatever. He makes adjustments. Spence couldn't do that, and it got exposed.
I mean, that's an excellent point there, HTBC. Excellent point. Just a slight correction, because you made the great point about pressure fighters. Once you take away their pressure, what's their plan B? But I'll just say Juan Diaz lost to Nate Campbell. And that's, again, it was the same principle applied.
Yep.
Campbell was outworking him, and he hit harder on top of that. And that was Diaz's game, outwork you. So once he could not work Nate Campbell, that was it. No plan B, no plan C. All he could do was try to turn it up more, and that was ineffective. So great, excellent points right there, HCBC. And by the way, man, hey, I'm going to put the link to the Second Renaissance because we're on Discord now. Excuse me. We're on Rumble now with the Second Renaissance. So jump in there whenever you can, man, because that show that we did with the Juarez, about the Juarez murders, that was fucking fantastic, man. You gotta come back when you get the chance.
Yeah, for sure. I caught a couple, but yeah, for sure. I'll definitely jump in.
All right,
oh, that was you? No, I want to say that was a great show. I listened. That was an excellent show, by the way. Just wanted to throw that in there.
No,
there you go, man.
Thank you.
Very much.
And I love your analysis and stuff, man. Guys, keep up the good work.
Thank you, brother.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, HBC. Thank you for your call, man. Hope to talk to you soon, man.
All right.
Yep. All right, that was HTBC right there. Shout out to him. Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like, hit the like, hit the like. Really helps us out. Let's go to a phone call here. Let's go to 323. 323, you're on the air. 323, what's on your mind?
What's going on, fellas? How you doing? Hell of a performance there last night. I think I have Errol Spence as my top pound-for-pound punching bag of the week next to Fulton.
Oh, come on.
No. No, really, though. Yeah, that guy showed a lot of heart, man. He was hurt, and he was hurt bad in the second round. And I thought he was going to go down. I had an 8th round stoppage, I predicted, but, what was it, the 10th or something? So, I have to agree with Chief. I didn't think it was going to be that one-sided, but I could see where Bucho's coming from, where, maybe this guy was hyped, and, some of you guys had this an easy victory for Crawford. And the only reason I was 50-50 was because of the age thing, but obviously, man, even if Spence was in his prime, like the Lamont Peterson days and all, he still would have gotten beat. Maybe he would have gone a little further, but it was shocking to see how easily he dispensed of them. And I don't know, you guys. Anyway, you guys already raised a lot of points I was going to say anyway. So have a great Sunday. Always great to call in. Always love to hearing you guys talk about this, Jimmy. Man, that was great. Good commentary, Jimmy. Last night I even heard you say, I asked you if Spence should continue, and you were like, this guy should never see a ring again. And I agree. The guy just didn't look healthy. He's not there. Like he shouldn't be taking hits anymore. I mean, no. I feel bad for him. I really do. And you know,
yeah, I took no pleasure in saying that. I wasn't shitting on him. I just thought there's no need.
Yeah, you guys were on the Discord,
100%.
right?
I mean,
you were watching the fights.
Yeah, we were on the Discord last night, and right after I asked Jimmy, do you think this guy should be in the ring again? I mean, he was talking after the fight, and yeah, he got rocked, but he's going to have irreversible damage. Like he's got kids. He should really just dial it down now. He's got nothing to be ashamed of. He's got a pretty good career, and you know he's got money. I don't know, man. I just feel bad for the guy. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time on the open lines, and have a great weekend.
All right, Don Madrazos, thank you for your call, man. Always appreciate hearing from you, and take it easy out there. All right, enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. All right. Also, I want to say, not to forget to hit the like. It really helps us out. And shout out to Urias Smith for his contribution to the super chat. He says, Pacheco, auxilio, mexicanito. Hey, Pacheco's another guy that we didn't even really talk that much. We didn't get a chance because I don't think we were on the air for that week when Diego Pacheco, another 168 pounder. These Mexicans, new generation of Mexicans, they're all tall now. Yeah, used to be 5'5", 5'6", at the most 5'11" maybe. Now you got fucking Zurdo Ramirez, you got Diego Pacheco, you got Benavides. I know I'm probably missing another tall Mexican, so tall Mexicans are on the menu now, man. Let me tell you. Munguia,
Zurdo.
for Mexican. Yeah, Munguia, big for
Zurdo.
Mexican. Zurdo, yeah.
Yeah, Zurdo.
All right, let's go to another phone.
Pacheco's really good. Yeah, he's really good. I'm impressed.
Yeah. He needs a little seasoning, but he's on his way, man. Let's go to 805 here. 805, what's in your mind?
Hey, gentlemen, thank you for having me on. I just wanted to kind of share, from this perspective, I've performed neurological exams on quite a few patients over my years. And when you're looking for somebody who's either had head trauma or maybe has had a stroke, even people with dementia, which is another form of neurological damage, there's certain things that you look for. And my wife, when she saw Errol Spence enter the ring, she asked me, she's like, he looks like he's on marijuana. And I told her, I said, he has residual neurological damage from his car accident. That people have commented on this, but people, if you don't have the experience doing this, you're not going to pick up on it. So one of the things when you're doing a neurological exam on somebody, you look at, there's like a glassy look to a person's eyes when they have either a concussion or they have advanced stages of dementia. And if you compare video of Errol Spence before his accident, just do a little assessment on the eye exam of what I'm telling you. It is apparent. I mean, it is embarrassing how obvious it is that he's significantly compromised. So what I would say to this is just think back to what they did to Muhammad Ali when they let him fight with Parkinson's. People will let somebody get into the ring even though there is obvious issues with their ability to perform in a boxing match. So further evidence of this is listen to his speech patterns, start comparing his speech patterns before his accident to after. There is a distinct difference in his enunciation. I know part of that is because he has dentures, but even just listen to how he is formulating his words, his thought process. He's much, much slower. Now, another component to a sign of advanced neurological damage is a loss of balance. That's why as people age, the primary cause of injury for older people is falls. And that's because as the nervous system degrades, the communication to the musculoskeletal system is also compromised. So a lot of the signs that people associate with aging as people get into the 30s in boxing or even sports, it's the first thing to go is your neurological system. So So when people talk about timing, and if you kind of listen to what even Spence was saying, Spence doesn't even know what he's saying. He's just commenting that. He's like, oh, my timing was off. My timing was off. That is because his brain is not the same. Now, of course, you can add on to that alcohol abuse, sure. Dropping weight, water dehydration, of course. But he should have never been allowed to get into the boxing match. All you have to do is look at Ugas's fight. You can see a difference in the way he moves. Now, unfortunately, from the neck down, because he's a physical specimen, he looks amazing. But from the neck up, he is not the same person. So when you look at how badly he was beaten, I can't recall another fight where Crawford looked that good. That's not an accident. When you look at Errol Spence and how he couldn't defend himself, even the first knockdown. The first knockdown was a blow where? It was a blow to his lower chin and to his neck. You throw somebody off their core stability, and they can't recover. He looked very clumsy last night. But once again, this is just something I don't think people want to admit because people are emotionally invested in the fight, emotionally invested in boxing. This, to me, honestly, it's very sad. It should have never been allowed to happen. But that's the history of boxing.
Well, let me ask you this. First of all, have you called in before into this show?
It's been a few years, gentlemen. Yes.
I think you called. Weren't you an expert? I thought you were an expert on roids. I think that was you who'd called in.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. There.
You guys used to call me Dr. 805. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, Dr. 805. But wait a minute. So you're did you say you were a neurologist as well? Is that your area of expertise as well, or?
So my specialty is gerontology. So I have specialized in medicine and taking care of elderly people and also people going through the aging process. So I've taken care of many people with dementia, many people with neurological issues like ALS, multiple sclerosis, taking care of people with strokes. So because of that, over my career, I've done a lot of neurological exams. And it was so obvious to me. I'm talking within seconds. Even my wife, who's in the medical field, she picked up on it. She's like, what's wrong with him? I said, he has neurological damage. I said, my God, he should not even be in this fight. And what happens is when you dehydrate, which people are aware, you're depleting water. That's ultimately what you're doing. Because since the body is 70 to 75% water, so is the composition of muscle tissue. Now, the way people make weight, and for some people listening, I'm sure they know this already, but the goal is to try and pull as much water out of the muscle tissue. That is the only place you can really make a significant difference in weight. That's why you can drop 15 to 20 pounds in a week. But how that is accomplished is primarily by depleting the glycogen, which binds water to it. So glycogen holds water in a 1-to-3 ratio. So 1 gram of glycogen holds 3 grams of water to it. When you pull the glycogen out, water leaves the muscle tissue. Well, what also happens is you start losing electrolytes. So evidence of this is anybody's ever watched a marathon race and they've seen a runner cramp up and have to leave the race. What has happened is that they've burned through the glycogen, which is stored glucose. And then once that's burned up, the water has to displace the water out of the muscle tissue. It just moves automatically. When that happens, the last thing to occur is a movement of electrolytes. So your sodium, your potassium, your magnesium. Now this gets complicated. It has to do with water balance and electrolyte functions in the body. So that's it. The body has to do this. If it doesn't, the body will die. So when you're cutting weight on somebody, especially with somebody with neurological damage, the consequences are even worse because in the rehydration process, one of the last places to rehydrate is the brain. So when somebody like Errol Spence is cutting weight, it is going to exacerbate underlying problems that he has, which was evident last night. And I know people don't want to say this because people have been looking to this fight, but you're talking about somebody who medically should have never been. I would not have cleared him. If I was doing the medical clearance on him, I would have denied him.
I was going to ask you that. So just to recap, from your professional opinion, as a physician, you said you saw the signs of him coming out and saying, wow, he looks glassy-eyed. This man is suffering from the residual effects of head trauma. So if a doctor from the Nevada State Athletic Commission or whatever commission, whether it was in Texas or whatever, they must have seen this then, right?
But as we know throughout history, even in professional football and in boxing, there is a financial motive, and not everyone is ethical. So they will find a doctor who is ethically fluid and will sign off on this.
Fluid.
There are very unethical physicians.
That's a great euphemism, by the way. That's a great euphemism. Ethically fluid, not compromised, not fucking corrupt. Yeah, ethnically fluid. Yeah, guys, what do you think about what Dr. 805 just broke down here? I mean, that's a professional right there, breaking it down.
Well, the little bit that I know of stuff that I'm not an expert in, but I do know about health and nutrition based off of being a cook in the military, and we had to take nutrition training every year. He obviously said it much better than I ever could, but it goes along with the breakdowns of what we know about protein synthesis and things like that. Jimmy, I know you know a lot about this through your bodybuilding, but when it comes time to, we have to, especially when we're stationed in very hot areas, like when I was down in Key West, part of the nutrition they went over with us is we don't just give the guys buckets of water. It has to be, Gatorade or something with high electrolytes for that reason. And they broke it down nowhere near as good as Doc did right here, but they did break it down. And everything he said from what I've been, the training I've had over the 20 years of being a cook is spot on. If I have one question for you, Doc, real quick, based off of being a boxing fan, doctor aside, do you think that Bud still would have won this fight prior to the car wreck and the rest of the trauma?
Okay. That is a hypothetical. But I can tell you, can you tell me another performance from Terrence Crawford that looked like that last night?
John Molina?
That he was that dialed in? He's always dialed in. I thought he was that dialed in against...
No. I'm talking about where
Ndongo.
His opponent, it was so lopsided.
Oh, I understand what you're saying, Doc, and I'm not trying to take away everything you said about that. I was just trying to say, prior to the accident, do you think that obviously this had something to do with it. I'm saying, do you think that it could have? Do you think it would have been more competitive yet, or who would you have picked prior to everything that you stated?
Okay, so my response to that would be this: in athletics, you're always trying to assess the status of your opponent, and this goes back even into the world of gambling. They're always looking to see if there's information about, does this person have an injury or is this person have a drug problem, to try and, determine how they're going to bet, to see, is the opponent compromised, are they weak? It would be hard for me to predict because, once again, this is a hypothetical. You have to look at, Terrence Crawford knew the issues with Errol Spence. This is not a secret. And there's more that people are aware of on the inside of Errol Spence's camp than the boxing community is aware of. Like, look, for example, what I just observed. Because of my experience, I could pick up on this right away. And there's more things. You look at the reputation for his alcohol use. One of the reasons why there is high alcohol use amongst boxers or even football players is because the effects of alcohol, it's soothing to the brain. So think of this like the brain has a chemical storm when you have some type of trauma, whether it's CTE or what boxers have had. They used to call it punch drunk or repeat concussions. The brain actually feels better. That is why you'll also see people start beginning to use inhalants because honestly it takes away the pain in the brain. So Terrence Crawford knew this. Everyone on the inside, I mean, even boxing fans have talked about this. They know that there's something wrong with Errol Spence, and it would be a completely different Terrence Crawford if you had to go back in time. So to say he would have won, I don't know. That's because if you've ever taken care of somebody with dementia, and I'm speaking to this because it's a very, very sad condition, and whether it's Alzheimer's, dementia, it doesn't matter. The person becomes so vulnerable on such a deep level. And when I saw Errol Spence, I said, this person can't defend himself fully. He doesn't have all of his resources there to protect himself. And one of the resources that I'm talking about is his judgment. He should have stopped himself. But there's reasons why, just like Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali should have never allowed himself to get in the ring to fight Larry Holmes, but he did. So to say that would Terrence Crawford have won back then, I don't know. I couldn't tell you that. I don't know.
Well, let me say this, man, because everything you're breaking down, Dr. 805, and this is your professional opinion. Some people are saying, well, you guys are making excuses. Well, first of all, here on the panel, we all picked Crawford to beat Spence, so there's no such thing as excuses. But the big reason why we picked Crawford, and I keep saying it, is because of the outside the ring factors. I mean, the man was in a major car accident, and it's a miracle that he didn't suffer more than some shaved skin and some teeth. But then you're saying that what we didn't see was what was going on in the brain. Now, let me ask you this too, doctor, because he was away for 16 months. Had he been away or something around that time, had he been out of the ring for that amount of time without the drinking, the boozing, the weed, whatever else he was doing, would that have actually helped him maybe reverse some of the effects that you're talking about?
It's conjecture on my part, but I believe that the reason he was out of the ring for so long is because of the damage. He couldn't do it. His team was protecting him, trying to stall, hoping he would come back enough. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say to Mr. BDA, to your point about him taking the drugs would have helped. No, that it's more of a masking thing. Basically, what the doc's saying. You ever hear like comfortably numb, Pink Floyd, just a little prick. There'll be no more. Ah, and they scream because somebody in that schizophrenic state, they're firing wrong, and the alcohol, drugs dulls it. That's why it's a lot of self-medication. So the doctor's 100% right. He's also right at what he said about the glycogen and whatnot. Now, let me ask you, Doc, because I found this to be, it was like they were biding the kid time. When that doctor came in to look at Spence, right? Remember when they said time out? And they called the doctor up into the ring to look into his eyes. Now, if you were looking for concussion, right? If you were looking for neurological problems, wouldn't you have used a light? Like that's like 101, right? You'll take a little pen light, let it flack by his eyes, just see if there's any response with the pupils. To me, he didn't do that. Didn't say follow my finger. I think they were just biding kid time, and I don't think they really cared. What's your opinion?
Could I ask your name?
Oh, Jimmy.
Could I ask
Sorry,
your name to
Jimmy.
person speak? Jimmy, you made a very astute observation. Now, as many things in life go, we miss a lot of information in real time, and this is something we could talk more about later. I would like everyone to go back and think, watch the fight again. And I pointed this out to my wife. Why did that doctor go in the ring? Nobody knew why. There was a reason why he did that. Because at that point, Errol Spence was not so debilitated that it would necessitate a doctor coming into the ring. It's because they knew ahead of time he was compromised. They were hair trigger. Why do you think the doctor went in? It was a giveaway, but the public missed it.
You're right.
Yeah, you're right.
The public missed it.
Because I've never seen that before of a doctor just going in
to make sure.
For no reason.
Well, I'm sorry, could you say that again? I missed that. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Doc, I didn't mean to talk over you.
That? I missed
break, so I thought that it was a good time
to
jump
that's
in.
No, go ahead.
I've watched boxing a long time. I've been watching boxing a long time, and I've never seen a doctor go in unless an eye was swollen, a cut was bad, not just to check a guy neurologically who was like in between rounds. Like he got up from the 10 count. It was in between rounds, and then they stopped it. And everything you're saying, like you said, we see things in lifetime, and we miss it at first, and then we go back and go, "Oh yeah, that's what happened." And that's what just happened to me right now, sitting here listening to you, because I've never seen a doctor just go in and evaluate for no reason.
That's the thing, though. If we're talking about all the wrongdoing from Las Vegas and the Nevada State Athletic Commission, the doctor's supposed to operate outside the ropes, from outside the ropes. Now, he's not supposed to step into the ring. That the last time I saw that was Pacquiao Morales 1, when the doctor stepped into the ring to check Pacquiao's cut, and even Roy Jones said, "Hey, the referee is not supposed to do. I mean, the doctor's not supposed to step into the ring." So you're absolutely right. That's another red flag right there.
Well, BDA, the only time they're allowed to do that if the ref is calling for it. If the ref calls for it, but here's the thing. We just had this recently. They stopped and everybody was all pissed about it. I forget who was fighting, and the doctor came in. If the ref wants the doctor to see you, he can't take away from your corner's time, meaning your 1 minute is with your corner. So to get an evaluation, he has to, cling the belt to start, then instantly say time out, and then he points to the doctor. And then, because that's on his time, so it has to be during, you know what I mean, not during that minute. So it very seldom happens unless there's been a severe beating. But that's the reason why they call it and, start the round, stop it, and have them look, because they can't take away from the corners 1 minute. I'm done.
And Jimmy made a very good point. What would the message have been if the doctor had pulled out a pen light and started doing a visual tracking exam on him? What would have people thought? Everyone would have realized there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
But if he steps into the ring and grabs the gloves and says, "How are you doing? Are you okay? You okay?" It doesn't grab your attention as much. So yes.
Now, let me ask you this: in hindsight,
well, you know that.
Dr. 805, in hindsight, one of the big points of contention going to this fight was, could Spence take Crawford's punch? And we were talking about the 2 times in which Spence's mouthpiece fell off. Once in the Danny Garcia fight, and then in the Ugas fight, which nearly cost him when he got hit and should have been a knockdown because the ropes held him up. In hindsight, was that one of the things that you looked at that was worrisome? Like, whoa, why is this guy looking down? Or was that just a mistake on his part?
No. You go back and you look at those 2 fights. That's why I brought those up in passing. That was a distinct change in his demeanor. Everyone has noticed it. Everyone has commented on that. But they just didn't understand what was the cause behind it. It's because his reaction time and his ability to focus and stay present is different now. So instead of, protecting yourself, how many fighters have we seen where the mouthpiece comes out and they still fight because they're protecting themselves? He literally disconnected, started looking for his mouthpiece because he was out of the moment. And that just comes down to, if you've ever worked with people with dementia, they get so easily distracted that they will literally just, in a millisecond, redirect, and they're gone somewhere else mentally. And that's what I saw with Errol Spence.
Wait a minute, I get distracted easily all the time. Don't tell me I got dementia. Tell me it's ADD, man. Tell me it's
Well,
ADD.
believe it or not, you start to exhibit signs of neurological decline by your late 20s. It's just the only reason why people don't see this more is that people tend to do the same things over and over again in their life. That's why a good neurological assessment to identify somebody with signs of early dementia, what they do is they perform a battery of tests that take a person out of their comfort zone. They're having them do things that they normally wouldn't do, whether it's basic arithmetic, if it's a visual spatial, and then that is how you can identify when something's wrong. That is why when you take many older people and they get hospitalized for any type of illness, you will find many cases of psychosis where they will literally become disoriented, start to exhibit signs of paranoia because they're accustomed to living in their house. The furniture. Just think of any older person you've ever known in your life, whether it's a grandmother, an aunt. You go into their home, and all of a sudden the home doesn't change. The furniture is in the same place for 20 years, and that's because the brain becomes on autopilot, and it just starts moving through life. So I know we're kind of a little off track here, but going back to Errol Spence, those are the things that I wanted to share. And I appreciate you guys taking my call, and I hope it led some deeper understanding of to what we were seeing. And I know people are waving pom-poms for Terrence Crawford. I get it, but all is not as it seems.
Now wait a minute, you didn't call from the exam room, did you? There's not a patient with you there right now, or
no?
Okay. And by the way,
no.
Well, I don't know how you guys do it.
I'm working right now, but no.
Well, one thing I wanted to ask you about, because
did anyone have any other questions?
Well, if I may ask a question here, Spence is, I believe he smokes weed, I think as well. How about weed neurologically? A lot of people tend to think now that weed, it's just a recreational drug, it's not that bad. But can it have adverse effects on the brain?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. It will change your reaction time. There's no doubt about that. And we know that in people that are susceptible, it can induce underlying schizophrenia. So maybe you had a propensity or a disposition towards it, and there are people that they do edibles or they smoke marijuana, and they will develop schizophrenia. This is known. This is not a secret. Ooh. So when people think that marijuana has no neurological effects, it does. You're just rolling the dice. And the same is with alcohol. We all know people that can drink like a fish for 30, 40 years, and they seem pretty functional. And other people, they are severely compromised, from a little bit of alcohol. It has to do with body chemistry. That's ultimately what it comes down to. So if you don't know your body chemistry, some people are blessed with enzymes that metabolize alcohol at a very high rate, very efficiently. So therefore, for them, alcohol actually functions almost like a liquid carbohydrate. And for other people, and this is especially true for women, this is why alcohol is so much more damaging to women, they do not possess enough of an enzyme called alcohol dehydrogenase, which allows them to metabolize and break down alcohol. This is why the effects of alcohol hit them so much harder. This is one of several things, but I'm just giving you an example.
Right. Well, that's fascinating, right?
So the marijuana, marijuana is not going to help Errol Spence, not at all.
Jeez Louise.
But of all narcotics, Doc, isn't alcohol and benzodiazepine, those are the ones that can actually kill you, actually go into seizures from it. Like cocaine, heroin, you might feel like you're going to die, but because of the alcohol, especially because the alcohol literally wipes out all the glycogen in your liver. So that's why against, like, when it destroys everything you've done in the gym. Like, so I stress, like, my boxers shouldn't be drinking. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, unfortunately, the public does not have a healthy respect for the effects of alcohol. Just take a look at individuals who die in one night from alcohol poisoning at frat parties. Alcohol is very, very dangerous. So when you start drinking, you don't realize this, but you're on a spectrum. If you keep going, every person will die. That's not even a question. It's just how much alcohol are you drinking? What is your resilience to it? So
sounds like a challenge to me.
A fighter. Go ahead.
That sounds like a challenge to me.
I'm sorry. Challenge.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah. I hope I don't come across as a Debbie Downer, but I just think the whole discussion about Terrence Crawford's performance and Errol Spence, it needs to be looked through a different lens, and it is unfortunately very sad. And I agree with Jimmy. Errol Spence should never fight again. He should not be allowed to fight. And I hope more people have the courage to step forward and say this because, being in my position, I have to deliver very uncomfortable news on a daily basis. And if you don't get to a place where you realize being honest with somebody is more important than shilling their feelings, then you're not going to be good in your position or your profession, or this profession, I should say.
Interesting, man.
Hey, Doc, I was going to say something. Yeah, it's true. Like, when I used to watch Errol Spence before, although he was younger, I think he was more creative in the ring. Now he's just like an autopilot. And he's not really using any type of defense aside from maybe parrying to block the punches. That's not a given. You're going to catch everything the other fighter throws. And
here we go.
The thing with Spence,
very good.
The thing with Spence, he already got knocked out. The mystique is gone. Fighters are going to see this dude's been broken before. He's breakable.
Doc,
that's all I want to say.
And this is what's beautiful about good. This is what's beautiful about good conversation is that it stimulates people to start thinking. So he just brought up a very, very good point. And then if you remember, Errol Spence's trainer was telling him over and over again, move lateral, move lateral, move lateral. Do you guys recall this?
Absolutely, yes.
He was telling Errol Spence not to stay in front of him, stop moving back and forth. Do you recall this? Maybe you guys didn't catch that.
I think I heard it.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I did.
So
I did.
Okay, why could Errol Spence not implement that? Because when a person is neurologically compromised, lateral movement is gone. Your side-to-side diagonal movements are weak. So if you think back, this is why all he could do was go back and forth, front and back. Even my wife said, he can only go front and back. I said, I know, he can't go side to side. Because you go side to side, and what happens? You start losing your balance. Errol Spence knows this. He knows this. Derek James was screaming at him, get off the line, move side to side, move lateral. He literally physically could not do it. He had the muscle.
Yeah, he lacks the dexterity that he used to have. He had more.
Correct. Absolutely. And those little things.
Derek James probably wanted to stop the fight, but then he realized he was going to make $1.5 million, and he said, well, you're not really my son.
Oh, come on. Wait a minute. Well, you never know, man.
Well, I'm just being honest. Imagine if he actually knew that, if they actually knew there was that kind of neurological damage, and he let that fight, even take place. That's what I'm saying. That would be almost, that's like cold-blooded shit right there, because he's known him since he's like been 14, hasn't he? That'd be fucked up.
Yeah.
So I hope some of what I shared today brings up some things that maybe some people didn't realize or didn't see regarding the fight last night.
Well, I suspect most people in your profession probably will not say it because they don't want to compromise the fight. That there's a lot of money involved. There was a lot of money involved in the fact that this was supposed to be a 50-50 fight. So I suspect many people, many of your colleagues will be staying quiet in regards to this issue. But let me tell you something. It was eye-opening. It was fascinating, and I hope people take into account, man, because you're getting a professional opinion here from somebody who saw the signs and probably explains why Crawford looked the way he did as well. I mean, shout out to Crawford, but it is what it is. You can't discount a car accident and that type of trauma. Anyway, listen, Dr. 805, man, anything else you want to say?
No, I just want to say thank you very much. I enjoy the show, and I wish everyone the best. Have a beautiful Sunday.
All right, Dr. 805, thank you for your call. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate the call. Really eye-opening.
That was amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, good call. The only thing about calls like that, it kind of makes you feel like a chimp.
What was that?
Well, I said the only thing when you talk with people, like when you talk to people that are educated, it kind of makes you feel like a chimpanzee. You know what I mean? When you're really educated like that.
Jimmy, I feel like a chimp and a chump because now I can almost feel bad that I wanted this fight so bad because we've all said that there's been a decline for one reason or another, whether we knew it was the wreck or not. We're not as educated as him to be able to spot everything, to know where it comes from. But we've all said there's been a decline in this man for a while. And I was not on last night to hear you say that you should never fight again. But after hearing what Doc said, hearing you say that, putting two and two together of all the signs that were in front of all of us, I feel bad for even wanting this fight because I knew from the get-go, definitely after the wreck, not realizing it was a huge impact that Bud was going to win. But now I realized the fact that I wanted this, and I wanted actual life-changing damage to a person without even knowing that's what was going to happen. I kind of feel even bad that I wanted this fight to take place now.
Well, I can tell you what kind of a person I am. I'd risk Errol's life just to have the fucking satisfaction of watching all those fucking Errol-sexuals eat crow. Sorry, God.
Well, let me tell you, man.
I don't think Errol stands. I don't think he wins again, really. Yeah, I don't think he wins again at the world level because there's a lot of punchers at 54. I don't think he'll get any titles there. Because look, what if he becomes stronger? What, to take more of a beating? He doesn't really know he can't multitask in the ring any longer. He can't defend himself. Only puts up the earmuff sometimes. But he's a seek and destroy, and now that he's been pretty much destroyed, fighters are gonna see that there's a chink in the armor. All I gotta do is go out there and beat him up, and he's gonna break again. So they're gonna press him.
Well, Gonzalo, that's what Gonzalo brought up, man. Gonzalo brought up an excellent point. He's thinking like a fighter. Once that mystique is gone, people go after him. Now, Mike Tyson, after he lost, his second loss when he in there against Holyfield, people have started saying, "Hey, this guy can be broken. We can get to him." Of course, you got to still risk encountering his power. But the point here is that Errol Spence is not Mike Tyson. He will not take you out with one shot. It's about attrition for him, and attrition means having to take blows. And from everything the doctor just told us, that's only going to exacerbate the situation. So it doesn't look good, man. Doesn't look good. All right, we got to go back to the phone lines, but go ahead.
Kind of like, let me just say this real quick. This is kind of like what we saw from Mildred Taylor after the Chavez fight. When you saw him fight Primo Ramos and the fight after, everything seemed stale. And then one performance was pretty decent when he beat up Aaron Davis, but every fight after that was just subpar, barely getting by, and he wasn't doing anything he did prior to Chavez. He was nowhere near the same fighter, and this is the kind of fight, and the doctor explained why it's this kind of fight that Spence just went through, and none of us are going to be surprised. Even I wouldn't be surprised if they give a vacant scenario to where he can win another belt against like an Erickson Lubin at 154 in a hard fight, but that's about as far as it's going to go.
Mm-hmm. That very well could be, Chief. I mean, you just laid out a historical precedent for that. I will say this, though, by the way. If I were Errol Spence and a doctor told me everything that the Dr. 805 just said, you got neurological damage, this and that, I would just say, listen, doc, I'm just going to walk it off. Just give me a little time, I'll walk it off. That's it. I mean, there's nothing a good walking off can't accomplish. Let me just tell you that much right off the bat. Modern medicine, pharmaceuticals, what can it do to just, a little elbow grease? That's all you really need. Let's go back to the phone lines here. Before I do that, however, let me just read a couple of super chats that we missed here. Shout out to Uncle Pete Skillbender for his contribution to super chat. He says, thanks to Dr. Deca for calling in. Hashtag what you mean. First of all, Dr. Deca. And then he says, what you mean? Yeah, that's another counter argument to everything. Just what you mean. What you mean? That's a great counter argument. Shout out to Marco Polo TV for his contribution via the super chat. He says he was concussed after the first knockdown. Leg was wobbling. Yeah, he didn't look good, man. Bucho said, it's interesting. Bucho said too when the guy was walking to the ring, he said, this guy looks something off about him. And you know what? Hey, it's interesting. Anthony Joshua. Remember that, guys? When Anthony Joshua was walking into the first Ruiz fight, people said that there was something wrong with him. And then a rumor came out that he'd actually been concussed in sparring. So maybe it wasn't an excuse or whatever that they brought out of their ass. Maybe it was actually, I don't know, shit, I should have asked him. Or maybe it wasn't the same thing. I don't know. Let's go back to the phone lines here. Let's go to 508. 508, you're on the air. 508, what's on your mind?
Yes, my name is Matthew E. O'Neill. I'm an Amazon.com author in 13 countries. And I watched the match last night between Crawford and Spence. Of course, Crawford completely dominated the fight. He even knocked down Spence with a jab in the second round. I'd like to point out that Errol Spence did have a severe car accident in October of 2019, and he was actually on a breathing tube for a few days. And I think that finally caught up to him.
I mean, that's what a lot of us were thinking. We were just talking about that, caller. It's he's off, and then of course the lifestyle. Don't forget that, caller. The lifestyle in between.
But I got to push back on the breathing tube. His life was never he was never even lost consciousness. He had tooth damage because he was so drunk. That's what saved his life. Because when you're drunk, you don't stiffen up. You don't prepare yourself. He landed on his face and it blew his teeth out and detached the retina probably and scraped up his face. But he didn't lose consciousness. He was talking when they picked him up in the ambulance. Because I remember the press conference. So I think that was somebody might have told you he was on a breathing tube. No, he wasn't on assisted breathing, but he wasn't hurt like that.
Okay, yeah, TMZ had him on a respirator, but you're saying that's inaccurate, that he was never on that? Okay. Yeah, because TMZ said in a video...
Oh, yes, no, that was bullshit. There was a bunch of rumors going around on his severity of his accident, but after they released the report from the doctor read it from the hospital. Yeah, it was lacerations, face lacerations, and he blew his teeth out.
Well, caller...
okay, yeah, I think judging by his performance last night, I think he might not be a top-rated fighter ever again. Do you agree?
I agree.
Yes.
I mean, it's hypothetical, but it's the evidence is pointing out to the yes, yeah.
Okay, yeah, well, thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thank you, caller. Call back next time. Appreciate it. All right, that was I mean that's essentially it. And now I guess with the last caller or the previous caller, with more and more people are going to start seeing that damage might have something to do with it, which is a shame because again, this could have been a closer 50-50 fight, more competitive, but that's only due to one man's fault and one organization's fault. You can't really blame Crawford for all this.
Mr. BDA, can you picture the week? Fucking Espinoza, hey, listen, kid, I know this could kill you, but I need to keep this job.
Oh, my God,
If your wife will leave me in 2 seconds if I lose this gig.
This is an indictment. You know what, then? This is an indictment of
Errol
boxing.
is actually very lucky that he wasn't wearing a seatbelt, because if he was wearing it, he would have got killed. Because I think he was riding around in a Corvette convertible.
Well, let me tell you, this is I want to touch more on this later because it's an indictment of boxing, and again, it just reminds us how corrupt this sport and how dirty it can be. Let's go to a phone call first. 619, you're on the air. 619, what's in your mind?
Yeah, hi, what's up, guys? It's Jose again.
Oh, Jose, what's up? Encore.
What's up, man? Yeah, I would agree with the doctor, man. I think if anything that affected him more is the car accident catching up to him. I've also been ejected, so I know. I mean, it's pretty bad from a vehicle. I was ejected like 20 years ago. But here's what I want to say about that. When I saw Errol Spence, it was very important for him to get this fight. Why? Because of the bag. I believe Errol Spence knew that the accident, has had his effect on his body and everything. So I think it was very important for him to get this bag. And when I saw him congratulating Terrence Crawford for making the fight after the weigh-in, I was like, man, this looks kind of like sketchy. It's almost as if he was happy that he made it to the fight. You know what I mean? He's never made this much money before, but I definitely think it was an accident, and not, as you were saying, party in between, because you keep bringing that up. You gave me a clue. You said after the Victor Ortiz fight, and I'm like, Victor Ortiz? He's been inactive for a year, or what? Not Victor Ortiz, Ortiz Jr. So I started looking up. Okay, he fought what's his name? This one guy, McKinnison. That was a year ago. I doubt Spence was partying at the McKinnison fight. Before that, he fought Kaveluskas. That was like 2 years ago. Before that, it was the other African-American, like 2.5 years ago. So if you keep bringing that up, man, I don't think that's legit, man. You got to do your research, bro. You gave me that clue, and that's what I came up with. And
now, let me ask
when
you
I
this,
call here, man,
because...
I don't call here to agree with you guys and fit the narrative. Yesterday, everybody, I ride hard for Pitbull. You guys were all riding hard for fucking Monster anyway. He had a great win. Okay, congratulations. But how can you say that he was pound-for-pound fighter before you ever even saw this fight last night? That's ridiculous, man. You guys should hold back, watch the fight, and look what happened.
Accomplishments.
Terrence Crawford outclassed. I mean, who was Stiff Schoolboy Steph?
Well, Jose, let me ask you this, man. We're gonna be discussing we're gonna be discussing this subject in the midweek show, the open line. So you can jump in and give us your opinion. But I gotta ask you this, man. A more important question. You said you flew out of a car. You said, Jose. You said you flew out. Jose, okay, he just keeps talking, man.
All the false narratives.
Jose,
just
you
like
flew out of
Jesus
a.
is coming.
Jose, can you hear me?
He's coming with the sword.
Jose, can you hear me? You flew out of a car.
Ahead.
You flew out of a car. Now, I remember one time I got into a rather large scuffle, a street fight, multiple people. At the time, adrenaline's pumping. You kind of fear for your life. You know what's going to happen. But then in hindsight, years later, you can look back and laugh about it and say, yeah, that was actually kind of fun. When you flew out of the car, how fun was that? Like, was it a little fun? Just
I got airlifted to the hospital. I got airlifted. I woke up in a field, a tall grassy field. And I was looking for my mom. I was concerned. And I was like half in and out. I was like knocked out, but still on my feet. As soon as I saw the paramedics heading down with the stretcher, that's when I relaxed, because I knew that, I was, they had found me or whatever. And I just I passed out. I became unconscious and I got airlifted to the hospital. I woke up in the hospital and I tore out that breathing tube from my chest, kind of like Steven Seagal, Hard to Kill. And that was like 20 years ago, and I got staples in my head, a big old bump, so I survived. I was lucky because I didn't hit nothing. If you hit something while you're ejected and you hit something like a tree or something, you're done. If you stop with something hard, so you basically
did you remember the helicopter ride?
Serious shit, man. I saw an accident about. What's that?
Do you remember the helicopter ride? Were you conscious during the helicopter ride?
No, like I said, I passed out. Bro, when the paramedics found me. So therefore, when I passed out, that's when I got airlifted. I became unconscious. I think I had a seizure.
I didn't know if you came in and out of consciousness. Sometimes you come, in and out. I don't know if you got to enjoy any of the helicopter ride.
I woke up when I was ejected, passed out, and woke up at the hospital.
Hey, Joe Lopez in the chat says, were you being chased by La Migra?
Was I being chased by La Migra?
Yeah.
No comment, man. That's kind of stupid, man.
Come on, he's just kidding around.
I mean, you guys want to clown and make all these stupid fucking comments on the chat, and I'm fucking, this is what I got to hear, fucking immature fucking little kids. I ain't got time for that shit, bro. Like I said, I'm here calling you out on everything, on your narratives, false narratives. No disrespect, but that's why I call in. I have to, man. You got all these, bunch of followers on the fucking chat, and trying to, kind of sounds stupid too, man. Is this
Well, listen.
Gonzalo's
All right.
brother?
Well, instead of calling up and insulting us and calling us stupid and pushing narratives, why don't you call up next show and explain exactly why it was stupid to put Inoue as number one? That's all.
No, listen,
Yeah, you're
listen,
coming
Jimmy.
off
No
a-
disrespect,
you're
man.
coming
It's
off a
not that
little
I'm
abrasive,
attacking.
bro.
I'm not
Like,
attacking you guys personally. I'm not attacking you guys personally. It's the narratives, man. I mean, it's no disrespect to you personally, man. And I said Inui, but it wasn't directed at you, bro. I'm just saying, how can you say he's number one before you even saw the fight from Crawford and Spence? To me,
well, listen, Jose.
Crawford deserves to be number one.
Because at that moment he was.
All right. Listen, fellas. We're not gonna get into this now. I got a bunch of other callers here. So, Jose, show up on the midweek show. Show up on the midweek show. Midweek show, we will be having open panel, and we'll be discussing this issue at length. Be that as it may.
And like I said, man, it's nothing personal. And at the end of the day, it's all subjective, bro. Like Jimmy said, man, it's just boxing, man. Don't get me. It's just boxing, bro.
Well, let me tell
so
you
there's
this,
no
Jose.
need,
Jose, let me tell you this,
to
man.
get all worked up.
All right, well, listen, this midweek, I'm warning you right off the bat, I'm going to make it personal. So just get ready, all right, Jose?
Okay.
Listen, Jose.
Okay.
All kidding aside.
Okay, all right. And I want you to keep saying that Spence was partying right before the fight. Because you said Ortiz Jr., like I said, last time he fought was a year ago. He's been on the shelf, bro. So come on, you got to check your facts, bro.
I got it. We'll talk more about it on me. We'll talk more about it.
Yeah, you got it, man. So don't change the subject, bro, when I call you out on stuff, please.
Don't tell me what to do, first of all. Don't tell me what to do. Come on. All right, take it easy, Jose. That was Jose, who's a little riled up about us saying that Spence was partying and that had something to do with the performance last night. But
what did you say in Spanish that riled him up so much?
I didn't say anything in Spanish. I said,
no,
Joe,
you said he asked if you were being chased. I thought it was a Spanish thing.
Okay, yeah, well, he said, okay, you're right. La migra in Spanish means the immigration. ICE.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Somebody
okay. No,
hey, I think I know why I got angry.
All right. Because I didn't understand, yo.
Hold on. Joe Lopez can say that because he's Mexican, and I can say it because I'm Mexican too. So
no, and I see it. It's funny too. It is actually kind of funny, but now I understand why he would yell. But when you guys drop the occasional Spanish word, and if I don't make it out, because sometimes I try to look it up, because I hate not being involved.
All right. Well, I mean, don't say that. All right. Shout out to Mr. Poe for his contribution with Super. Mr. Poe, Michael Poe for his contribution with Super Chat. He says, "BDA, I won a WBC belt. I'm officially the new champ." Well, Mel won to you, man. The WBC gives belts to everybody. Why not you as well, Michael? Shout out to you. You probably know more than the WBC. Let's just put it that way. Shout out to Michael Poe for his contribution. Always appreciate his support. Shout out to Carlos Ruiz for his contribution to Super Chat. He says, "Dude ain't got that dog. I wouldn't have been airlifted." Yeah, airlifted. Just drive me to the hospital, man. You don't need that helicopter. That's overdoing it. Shout out to Chet Collins as well for his contribution to Super Chat. He says the reason is Inoue moved up, took out the number one guy at the higher weights without a tune-up. Oh, that's an excellent counterpoint as well right there, Chet. I suspect many people will say the same thing this coming week during the Pound for Pound show. All right, let's get back to the phone lines here. Still got a couple of callers left. Let's go to 336. 336, you're on the air. 336, what's on your mind?
Yo, what's up, male models? This is a Fire Fist again. I was just going to call in a little bit. So that male model doctor brought out some really cool points. So that was pretty interesting. I didn't know if he was still smoking or partying or not after the accident. And like some people have, I think something that's known as HPPD. So if they do psychedelics or a bunch of weed, they'll even have kind of like episodes as if they were high or as if they were having a bad trip, whether it was on that psych or drug. And, being high is like, it's a hallucinogen, well, at least on weed, it's a hallucinogen, but also like a depressant. It really does fuck up your reaction time. Doing that for years, as an athlete, it's just not ideal. And the same thing with drinking, and it affects people differently. So I like how he made up that point. But to be an elite, high-level athlete, you got to be a man and say men drink water. And then once you fucking retire, you can get as fucked up as you want. That's my opinion on that. And anyways, for my actually, before I go to my pound for pound list, I'm going to just make it real quick. I know we're going to have a video on it. I have a lot of people are saying, like, Jermell Charlo's pound for pound, Jermell Charlo's pound for pound. He's not on the pound for pound list at all. He went 1-1 with the best fighters in his division. He's a good fighter, don't get me wrong, but I can easily name 10 fighters right now on the top of my head, which I will do in a second, that are more accomplished than him. I just don't want the bias to be, Errol Spence wasn't pound for pound, but Jermell was. In my opinion, they're both not pound for pound. And the same thing applied to Fulton. And unfortunately, Haney is probably better than all three of those guys. But I believe all three of the, I believe Canelo in a way, and then Crawford, well, are going to have the better performance. Well, we already know those two did. I believe Canelo's going to have the better performance just because I don't think they're as good as Little Deb. Now, going on to my pound-for-pound list, this is going to assume that Navarrete wins, because if Navarrete wins, he's 12-0 in world title fights. He has like an 82 or 83% knockout ratio, and he'll be a three-weight world champion. So it would go 1 Inoue, 2 Bud, 3 Usyk, 4 Loma, 5 Ioka, 6 Canelo, 7 Beterbiev, 8 will be Teofimo Lopez, 9 is Navarrete, and 10 is Estrada or Bivol, and that's the best pound-for-pound list. Can't nobody fuck with that list. You know, people got fucking Jermel Charlo still sitting on there, shit like that. Like, come on, that dude's gonna get washed, and he's been inactive for 15 fucking months.
Yeah,
so that's my opinion on that. I want you know, the Canelo fans and, you know, pro-Mexican crowd to that coming in here to be unbiased as well. If Spence is compromised, or if he was, which he probably was a bit, but also he was just never a pound-for-pound fighter on any of this panel's list to begin with. It's the same for Jermel Charlo, so we got to keep it honest. We got to keep it, you know, 100 on what Canelo's going to do when he bashes this fucking dude. Don't call him a pound-for-pound fighter just so you can say Canelo beat another pound-for-pound fighter. Fuck that. That's pussy shit.
Your point has been made. Just watch the language a little bit there. It is a Sunday. But shout out to you, Fire Fist. And don't forget, you made the great point. People underestimate the effects of marijuana. They think it's just like coffee or alcohol. No. It can be a psychedelic.
Yeah, it's a no-joke hallucinogen, brother. Don't
forget, however.
It's a hallucinogen. That will mess you up long term. Now, it's not. I mean, if you're not going to be an athlete and like you don't have signs of schizophrenia in your family, which I do, which is why I stay away from the drug now. I've only had one bad trip, but I've probably been high 8 or 9 times in my life. I only had one bad high, and it wasn't my last high, but it was one of the highs that I had. And I know if you just go down that road and you just get some bad fucking trips, it's gonna mess you up long term. Like, I had a psych episode. Dude, I was messed up for 2 or 3 months after that high because it continued to linger with me. Like, it was that mess. Yeah.
Well, don't forget, man.
Drugs is going to be an elite athlete.
Fire Fist, don't forget that fisting is doing things with your fist. That can also be very, very nauseous to your body. So just you know, true. Watch out with the fire fisting.
You gotta be careful with that.
All right, well, shout out to you, Fire Fist. Thank you for your call. Hope to hear from you on the midweek show. Take it easy out there. Thank you for your call.
All right, do some no models.
Yeah, listen.
So just say no, kids, unless it's free.
I've had some bad trips. I don't need marijuana for bad trips. I've had enough on this show. Just reading some comments from people. Man, you ain't about that life. You ain't about that life. Jeez Louise. What you mean? Let's go to a phone call here. We're running out of time on the phone lines here. Let's go to 919.
My low place did that to you a couple of times, huh?
Oh, remember that episode? 919, you're on the air. 919, you're on the air.
What's going on, guys? How are you?
Doing fantastic. Hope you're doing fantastic as well. What's on your mind?
Peachy.
Yeah, so I heard the doctor. He made some really, really good points, but however, I'll have to disagree. Simply because, I mean, I have seen Crawford's other performances where he has totally dominated other fighters in the same fashion. I mean, Errol Spence could have had some remaining injuries from, the accidents. But, I mean, he has had fights after that where he has totally dominated as well. So what he did to Ugas that Pacquiao couldn't do. And then you also have the other fight that he had with Danny Garcia. He didn't knock him out, or you know what I'm saying, but Danny Garcia has never been stopped, so and just, I believe that Errol, concerning the mouthpiece itself, the incident or whatever, where he gets lost the mouthpiece, he has already discussed that, Errol, and pretty much mentioned that he didn't, want other people to realize that he had dentures on, which is why he became, quote unquote, distracted or whatnot. It wasn't really him, becoming affected as a result of the accident or whatever. So my point is, he's already had fights after the accident, and he's been able to maintain himself. So to a certain extent, I would say that the doctor is correct about some things. I do believe Spence does need like a CTE exam or something like that to find out where he's at, and then make the data public so people can know where he's at, so they can cancel out any rumors. I do, That's pretty much all I have to say. I mean, I would like to see Spence versus Thurman, because that would definitely let me know where Spence is. He should easily be able to take out Thurman. Thurman's looking forward to that fight. I heard that, that's like the next fight that's coming about. Other than that, we shouldn't take away from Crawford's credibility. He had an incredible performance with Spence, and I do believe this was like all Crawford mainly. So, I mean, to take away anything that Crawford did on that fight, I mean, it's just crazy, So that's pretty much all my thoughts.
All right. Well, listen, 919. Thank you for your call, and call back next time. Right? Take it easy out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say a couple of things about that, about the car accident, but we can't go back and forth right now. We're running out of time as well. So maybe we'll have more to say afterwards. But shout out to the caller right there. And hit the like, everybody. Hit the like. It's going to have a phone call here, running out of time. 470, you're in the air. 470, what's on your mind?
What's up, BDA? It's Never Sober from the Discord.
Oh, Never Sober. What's up, man? Yes, I can hear you, man.
What's up, bro? So I don't know if that was the beatdown. I don't know if that was the beatdown of the century, but it was like the beatdown of the week. That's for sure. And Errol Spence, dude. I know they're saying all that neurological stuff, and he's having brain problems and whoop de whoop. What I really think is going to come out after. I mean, that is. I think that is also true as well. I think all that's true. But what's going to come out after he retires is something's up with his eye, bro. I think he's losing his vision in one eye, and I've seen it happen with other fighters. And they play it off until they retire, and they bring it out, the truth, and they get all kinds of props. But Errol Spence looks like the kind of dude that he's going to be suffering when he's older. And his family's going to, they're going to rinse his ass out. And he's going to be like one of those cautionary boxing tales.
Jeez. Did you say they're going to wrench his ass out?
They're looking bad, bro.
Never saw it. What did you say? They're going to
rinse his ass. They're going to rinse his ass out.
Ah, jeez Louise.
They're going to rinse his ass out like a wet towel,
Man, that's a sad state of affairs, man. Like the doc said. Yeah, that's a sad thing, man. But
I mean, you see how he talks to him. Like he's like, "You want to go to Dubai on your dollar after I ran you over?"
Yeah, that was bizarre, man. That was bizarre. Yeah, that's true, man. You're right. He might not be surrounded by the people that have his best interest at heart. That's absolutely correct, right there, man.
I also want to say, I think the Farkas was talking about that weed is hallucinogenic. What happened?
No, go ahead, man.
When you want?
Running out of time, man.
Oh, I was going to say, Farkas talking about weed is hallucinogenic. Okay, well, Farkas talking about weed being hallucinogenic. I don't know what he was smoking, bro. It's not weed. That shit doesn't stick with you for 2 months. He shouldn't be smoking anything if that's the kind of effects it's having.
Well, real quick, I have heard that people. I have heard that people that they have psychotic episodes or bad trips. I don't know if they're exactly psychotic episodes, but that have bad trips with marijuana, they have residual effects, and I think they call it derealization, where the world no longer sees. It's almost like a dream. Yeah. So I think that it can cause that type of disconnect in some people. Again, I think the doctor mentioned something about that it depends on the person too as well. So I assume that marijuana has that effect on some people and not on others. Like Firefist did say that he had a history.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, Firefist mentioned the fact that there's a history of schizophrenia in his family, and I have heard that too. That they say if you get schizophrenia, do not touch the wacky tobacco because it may make you go nuts a little bit.
Even worse, Mr. BDA, just for put it out there, Adderall. Even worse, it'll onset schizophrenia even faster than weed.
Go ahead, Never Sobers.
Well, yes, I promise you, it's no good for you if you have schizophrenia, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that was it. Everyone else already said everything they had to say about this fight. For the most part, everybody. Errol Spence getting caught with his mistakes that he got. This is what I want to say, bro. To the PBC fighters, dude, fighting over matched competition doesn't make you better. All it does is make you make mistakes, and you get away with it against lesser competition, and you take that into your next fight, and it actually makes you worse. Okay, so fighters out there, if they're listening, Deontay Wilder, Shakur Stevenson, who else? Jamal Charlo, who else?
Tank Davis,
that's for sure. Ghost Martin. All right, Boots Ennis. You know what I mean? All you guys out there who like picking and choosing your opponents and stuff, like eating easy food, Anyways, but yeah, dude. And the PBC, every time they're sending their guys out, they'll lose. All right, yeah, all right, BDA. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up because y'all gotta go.
All right. Never
But yeah,
thank you for
that was a beat down of the week. And go ahead.
All right. Yeah, we still got a couple of minutes left later, so if you want to jump on the Discord, let me know, man. All right. Take it easy out there, man.
All right, bro.
All right. Yeah, by the way, he said that weed for schizophrenics should stay away from the weed, so I guess that disqualifies 50% of our audience from touching weed. Let's go to another phone call here. Let's go to 205. 205, you're on the air. 205, what's on your mind?
What's up, BDA? What's happening? What's happening, Pamela? Uncle Charles in the building.
Oh, Uncle Charles, part 2, man. What's up?
Yeah, part 2. You're absolutely right. Why don't we just say that Crawford was the better man? I'm hearing all this stuff that Errol Spence was a clone. That he was he stopped by the ice house and got him a sip of Wild Hours Rose. No, he got his ass whooped. In fact, he got his ass whooped like I used to get my ass whooped back in the day from my daddy. In fact, my daddy whooped my ass so much I thought it was his job. So come on, man. And he got one of them real ass whooping. Them I didn't make it home in time ass whoopings. He got one of them ass whoopings like that. This is the same thing. He wasn't on no drugs. Okay? He wasn't not in shape. He just got his ass beat. And that's all there is to it. And the Spence fans, they don't quickly turn on him now. They say he ain't from Dallas. But he was from Dallas when he fought Uga. But he was from Dallas when he fought Showtime Porter. Man, ain't y'all something? Here I am, been whooping ass all this time. As soon as I get my ass whooped, all of a sudden, I ain't your boy no more. Ain't that something? How people jump ship? Well, guess what? You gonna jump a couple of more ships if he go back and fight Crawford. You gonna be able to jump the ship and get in the water and drown. That's what's gonna happen to your ass. Stay away from Crawford. Boots Ennis. Don't go messing with him. Leave him alone. Okay, you gonna be the next one that gets smoked. I keep telling you. Let's just say it. Let's all say it together. He whooped Spence ass. That's all we got to say. And don't that make you feel good? Don't that make you feel better? Man, you just come down and say your prayers and go to damn bed. That's all I got to say, BDA. Appreciate you.
All right. Uncle Charles, shout out to you, man. Thank you for your call, man. Take it easy out there. that was the one and only Uncle Charles who says that people are saying that wasn't real Spence, that was a clone. They cloned him in the DUMB, the Deep Underground Military Base. All right, let's go to another phone call here. Running, as you heard, we only got a minute left with the phone. 301, you're in the air. 301, what's on your mind?
60 seconds. Quick wait. Yeah, BVA. No, I think there's something to this. I don't think that was Spence. That was just a roboticized version of him. A half human, half robot hybrid after the accident. That wasn't Crawford either. He actually died when he was shot after that dice game. They just
come on.
They're just putting in random black guys into the ring. Just never noticed, because you're so racist. And I didn't die because I can't tell the difference. So they just found, for this fight, they found some crackhead bum. That's the overgrown hair, and just put him in the ring, and that's what happened.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, I can see that.
On the night.
Absolutely, I can see that happening there.
It was actually a lizard people's fan. Zuckerberg, he's getting into fighting, so he's been just abducting fighters as we go on. All this is just staged, and you China haters, you're gonna see the truth one day if you yeah. You gotta follow him for the details. I'm just a messenger. Don't shoot me.
That's right.
But yeah, man. Weed will fuck you up. Anything like dopaminergic, anything that like dysregulates your dopamine receptors, you should stay away from. Especially at night. If you dysregulate that pattern, you lose all your motivation. You won't naturally produce any excitement towards things in your life. You become, like depersonalized is the official term. You'll just be completely disconnected from your life. It'll be like being in a movie. So probably like the legalization of weed has been one of the worst things to happen. Probably not as bad as fentanyl, but I feel like we're splitting dice. It's really kind of sad that our time only seems to like worship licentiousness in this case, you know. Oh, you're not hurting anyone. You hear that kind of logic, right? Oh, it doesn't hurt anyone. You know, it doesn't matter if it robs people of their spirit and will towards, you know, glorifying God. It just, it doesn't hurt anyone. So, you know, that's the highest virtue we can aim for.
I like that you used the word licentious. I really love it, man. That just right there. I don't need a drug. That just gets me. Who needs Viagra when you get licentious? All right, listen.
Exactly. That's the BD word of the day. You haven't dropped one in a while, so I had to come in and help you out. You know.
So it's not just me. So it's not just me.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, you picked up on that, Jimmy, too. I think he dropped lascivious
Oh
at
man,
different times.
that kid's a fucking he's a ninja with his words. That motherfucker.
I mean, that's why I don't come up with words anymore, man, because then I get made fun of, man, and that's a sensitive topic for me. But anyway, listen, caller.
No, I'm not making fun of it. That's something to be proud of, dude. It's a sign of intelligence, actually. You know that.
What the fuck ever?
All right, well, listen, caller. Thank you for anything else you want to say before we move on?
Well, I mean, yeah, with that ass whooping, this has been, you know, a great week of fights, starting with Inoue, and it's been a great week of promotion listening to you guys. So I gotta thank you. I mean, for someone at your advanced age, I gotta tell you, it's impressive being on these live streams for 5 hours, holding the prune juice, your own steak and water, do bathroom breaks. I gotta say, BDA, you're Trump-esque, you know. You're holding it down there. So
I'll take
geezer.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'll take the compliment any way I can take it, man. Well, listen, shout out to you, man. Thank you for your call. Call back next, all right, man? All right, peace out. Take it easy.
All right, thanks.
All right, well, listen, that's it for the phone calls. That concludes that segment. We took 2 hours of phone calls right there. And, you know, before we go, I also want to touch on this. People are saying, Jaron Ennis, stay away from Crawford, stay away from Crawford. Now, I do agree that he loses the fight. That being said, this is indeed the fight game. We want to see people fight each other. So let's not forget, man, Benavidez was giving Crawford the work. So it's not like as if he's invincible. I mean, he looked invincible last night, but this is the fight game where anything can happen. And if there's nobody else left for Crawford, I mean, why not Jaron Ennis? He hits hard. He's quick-handed too. Again, I don't think he wins, but you just never know. So let's not jump ahead too much. But again, it's looking like it's going to be a tall mountain to climb for Jaron Ennis. Also, I want to touch on excuse me. I want to touch on Nonito Donaire. Shout out to his opponent. What was his name again? Alejandro Santiago. He brought the business. But it just seemed like Donaire turned old overnight, and it reminded me a little bit of Cotto, when Cotto was having these great performances, and then you know, after the Margarito fight, he had a second renaissance, and then he gave Mayweather the business, and everyone was like, "Holy shit, this guy's good. He's back." Blah blah. And then he loses his next fight to Austin Trout. So, what did you guys think about Nonito Donaire? Did age finally catch up to him?
Grew old overnight, like you said.
Yep. Yeah, and shout out to Santiago. I mean, I'm here in the Philippines, and he's a Filipino, but he was fighting a fellow Mexican from Tijuana that trains under a good trainer in Romulo Quirarte. That kid, he fought his heart out. For a guy that's not a puncher, he was really turning into his punches, and he was landing like and putting some hurt in on Nonito. Mm-hmm. So I mean, credit to him, he fought his heart out. But yeah, the same thing could be said that the 40 years old, age caught up with them.
There you go, man. Yeah, Nonito, he tried the first couple of rounds. I said, whoa, the old man's going to pull it off. But then just Santiago took it to another level, and that's what happened that's what happens with older fighters. They try to turn on the afterburners, and whoopsie daisy, you're not 31 anymore. So, you know, and another caller made a great point that the only way Nonito retires, and he claimed, Donaire said after the fight, no, I don't know, I think I can still continue. He needed this type of performance to let him know it's over, man. But apparently it hasn't been enough. We'll see what happens in the next couple of days if he makes a statement. But yeah, man.
You can tell Donita's going to have a hard time letting go. He seems like that type of dude who's going to have a real hard time stop fighting. You never like seeing that.
Exactly, that's largely because of the success he had later in his career of turning his career around. I've done it before. I can do it again. and they're competitors and they're warriors, and they know their success is based off of what their will got them to do. And if they willed themselves back into same thing happened to Terry Norris. Had his disqualifications and stuff like that against, I forget the guy's name right now, but he worked his way all the way back to number 6 in the pound for pound list. And so he thought there wasn't anything that could stop him if he was willing to. And he 3 fights too late. He was getting beatings and knockout losses by guys that never would have beat him in prime.
Remember that Troy Waters fight? That was a good fight. Troy Waters, he dropped him.
Now, are we allowed to talk about the Cruz fight, or?
Yeah.
We get the kibosh on that.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I just want to hear what did you guys think? I was really shocked by his lack of just trying to do anything else, not even trying to jab. I didn't like the fucking little jumpy fucking headbutts into the dude's face. He wasn't even doing a good job at it. He got a point taken away. Listen, he's a tough kid. He actually reminds me of my buddy Bobby Kostakis. Fought the exact same way, won the Golden Gloves that way and everything. Tough as nails. I don't see anybody actually really stopping Isaac Cruz. He seems like one of those dudes who'll just fight forever. He's like the epitome of the Mexican fucking, nuts. But I just don't see that being an effective style against someone with some ability and a little fucking, enough to keep someone from coming forward. What do you guys say?
I think he's got something going for him that even though he's the short guy, it's going to help him out like it did against this guy. He's got a tough chin, so he can take a punch, and in other words, he can close the gap and not risk getting knocked out. So he's confident in the chin, and also he brings that it's kind of also like a staple of the way he fights now, the high guard. So he's keeping the hands up. He's strong. He got the tough chin, so he's walking you down, and he can run more risk than other fighters do who get on the back foot a little bit more tentative, a little bit more afraid. And then once he gets close to you, he can drop the quick hands. And obviously he didn't look that impressive, but I think Cabrera had also been like 7 undefeated fighters. He was a boxer who made other dudes look like shit. But the little guy was able to close the space and best them in the close fight. Beat him. Barely, but beat him.
And if I can throw my 2 cents in on this is Cruz fighting a guy who is taller, longer limbs, a totally different type of fighter. When you expect to see a guy perform the same way all the time when he performs a good fight like he did against Tank Davis, you got to remember, this guy wasn't Tank Davis. Doesn't mean he was better than Davis by any means, but he offered all sorts of different challenges. So Cruz is going to have to alter his game. And if he's not good at altering his game in a significant way, then some performances are going to look like this. He's going to struggle against certain styles and certain body types if he's not a special fighter like some of the guys we talked about today, like Crawford, like Don Errol in his prime. In a way, those guys can change their style against everyone they fight because they have this extra ability. They're the cream of the crop. Cruz is a fun, good fighter. He's not the cream of the crop. Doesn't mean he'll never win a title. It just means he's not ever going to be in a top pound for pound list. And when he faces different challenges, he's going to struggle. When he does, some people are going to give him a knock that he doesn't deserve. And that's all I got to say about that.
An excellent point there, Chief. And Gonzalo too, though. But I will say that one thing that worried me about Cruz was what Jimmy touched on. The lack of... He was just trying to get him with the hooks. It was like, how about a couple of straights to the body, a couple of jabs upstairs? I know it's easier said than done, but this type of limitation is going to cost him at the higher level. And by the way, Cabrera, I knew he had ability, but I said before the fight, I thought that with his chin up in the air, he was going to get iced eventually. And he was shaking off Isaac Cruz's shots. So either Cabrera has an excellent chin even when it's untucked, or Isaac Cruz's power... I can't believe that Isaac Cruz's power would be overrated because I've seen him connect on people and shake him off. So I don't know, guys. What do you guys think?
I know. Yeah. I also saw the same thing, BDA. Even for the shorter dude, when he was getting up on that dude, sometimes he did land straight shots. Because with Isaac Cruz's hooks, especially against a taller dude, when he hooks, it's easier to roll away from a hook because you see it coming at an angle. So basically, when the dude's throwing a hook and you roll your neck to the side, out and away, that shot's not gonna land. It's gonna be glancing. People are gonna roll away from those shots when you're taller. And with the straight shots, he'll have a lot more success. then them hooks. They're gonna be widely missing sometimes, like they did here.
Maybe you could be right. Yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it. Jimmy, I
Yeah,
think you
because
were going to say something.
well, I was just going to say because it wasn't because, and I'm not trying to shit on the kid. I'm just saying the first time I ever saw him was on Showbox. It was the fight before he fought, Davis, and he looked pretty bad that night too. Yeah, and there was the thing was at an off night. So I think it's just like you said, it's certain people he faces. But my thing is this: when you're turning away, you're turning down $1 million offers, and some of the shit that his team says I don't really care for. It's like, dude, you gotta do something. And you can have all the potential in the world, but you got to actually beat somebody, dude. Because as it is right now, I mean, his claim to fame is losing to Tank Davis, not getting knocked out. I mean, he still hasn't beat one of the upper echelon guys. I mean, I just want to see what he looks like against a top 10 guy. That's all. And I don't mind his. I mean, he's going to make for exciting fights. I just see a lot of people on Twitter go really fucking shit for the kid. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I just haven't seen it yet. I mean, again, I won't question his toughness or his exciting style. But again, if that's all you're looking for, then that's fine. But I just don't see him beating like a Shakur Stevenson or any, even Keyshawn Davis. I think would fucking do him in. I think he's got too much movement, too much skill. Not unless he's got to develop more of a jab. He can't just coming in from the wing and from the outside like that.
Yeah, in terms of a Mexican
I don't know. Maybe
shootout,
he's trained by his father, right?
I think
he's trained
so.
by his dad.
In terms of
I
a
wonder if he
Mexican
needs to bring somebody else in.
In terms of a Mexican shootout, I would pick Camarón over Isaac Cruz. That's not to say that Isaac Cruz is a bad fighter. I mean, hey, sometimes there's like Gonzalo says, certain styles will put you off. But his stock certainly fell from last night's performance, and he's gonna need a good one to get back on track. And with the PBC, I don't know if he's gonna get that fight anytime soon. He's probably gonna have to wait another year before he gets it. Hopefully not, man.
I mean, Cabrera was pretty good because he was undefeated and he was tall, so he's a good boxer. And I think he had 2 good wins. He had bit Telles Giron. The Telles Giron had knocked out Carlos Valderas, I believe, and was just a prospect, but he was an Olympian, Carlos Valderas. Then he beat that one kid, Gabe Flores, who's also on the winning track again. But he was also a prospect too. So. Yeah, but Cabrera, he had beat 7 undefeated fighters. And, I mean, there's no doubt that Pitbull beat him. I'm a fan of Pitbull, too. But, yeah, against other elite fighters, we'll just have to see, man.
Absolutely.
Yo, can I jump in?
Hey, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, Pitbull Cruz, his style is his style. It's not a lot of depth to it, and he's just a really tough guy. He's gonna fight the same every. Do I sound okay? Can y'all hear my mic well?
You sound fantastic.
Yeah, we got you.
All right, cool. So he's gonna bring what he brings to the table every time, and Cabrera has a style to beat him, and he doesn't have any power to really keep him off him to get his respect. But you've seen like the blueprint right there. You kind of got to keep him moving and stuff. He's gonna keep looping his hooks. But BD, I think Pitbull Cruz will give Keyshawn Davis a hard fight. Oh, yeah. I don't think Keyshawn Davis is as good as like he's being advertised as. But man, I gotta say about Cabrera, dude, I hate how he boxes, man. He sticks his ass out and he puts his palms out like he's doing like a weird karate stance. I can't stand the way he boxes. But he got the good chin, dude.
You're right. He's boring, man. And then the clinching and then trying to act like he's not clinching. Ugh. But by the way,
he's sneaky with it, dude, because he grabs on and lets go, and then he kind of grabs on, and so the referee's not sure what to tell him, like to let go or not, because he's like already letting go, but not. And he's smart,
Like the Miyagi fucking boxing style, little wax on, wax off with those hands.
Yeah, that's exactly how he fights. Like he's trying to wipe the window with his palms. Like I don't know why he sticks them out like that.
Or he's washing the windows with his ass because he sticks it out more than the hands. All right. Now, I wanted to bring something up here, fellas. I was perusing Twitter while I was on the air here, and I didn't want to bring up these photos too much because they do make him look very bad, but there's this photo circulating, okay? As you can see here of Spence eating shots and his face being badly distorted, heavily distorted. And apparently, T-Street Controversy posted this on Twitter, and there were people in his comment section going, those photos are fake, those are photoshopped. And he said, no, those are from the actual PBC Showtime press release. They were official photographs. And so it just goes to show you that the Spence fans, that's the Spence fans in the microcosm right there. They just can't admit anything. They couldn't see the signs that their fighter wasn't going to beat Crawford. They couldn't see
That's not him, BDA.
That's not him. That's a clone. They couldn't see the signs that
He looks like Michael Jackson from Thriller.
That's what I was gonna say, bro. Before he turned white, that was like Michael Jackson, bro.
Yeah, they couldn't see the fact
But the
that
Thriller he's playing,
side,
he's like a dead dude, right?
they couldn't see the fact that his side was the one that didn't want the fight or had been pushing it to the side. That's just that they're all Spence fans right there, man. You guys got to own up to reality, and you'll save yourself a lot of heartbreak by looking at the evidence and then making a decision based on the evidence. They're doing the opposite. They have an idea in their heads. They come to a conclusion in their heads, and then they try to look for evidence to support that conclusion, as opposed to the other way around. So, hopefully, it's a lesson in humility and on critical thinking. But yeah, go ahead, guys. You were gonna say something?
You know what I think that is, BDA? I think that's how strong their propaganda machine is, and that's how powerful they got people to believe that this guy was really the pound for pound real deal, could never take an ass whooping. He'd go up to 168 and whoop Canelo's ass. That's the same thing that had him thinking that Fulton was going to knock out Inouye just because he's from Philly, you know? So, and that ties in with Pitbull Cruz too. Well, y'all guys were talking about, his matchup after he lost to Tank Davis. He's another PBC hype job that they're gonna build up and try to make him look better than he is. And it's just same thing they did with Leo Santa Cruz. That's just all their fighters are like this. They have a name. They keep them away from real competition, and they try to keep them inside their little circle. So like Al Heyman's not trying to make the best fights. He's just trying to make the most money off these guys he can. He's not concerned about what fans want. Well, I'm sorry, you were talking about Errol Spence getting his ass whooped.
well said, never sober. I was going to jump in real quick on something on Pitbull Cruz, an analogy I was going to make a second ago, and then a comment again about the butt whooping. But the first things first. So when we're talking about styles and everything different, if you remember, Oscar De La Hoya looked amazing against Rafael Ruelas. He knocked him out in 2 rounds. Next fight was against Bernard Hernandez, a tall, lanky guy that only boxes and has a really good chin. And honestly, that was a highly unimpressive fight, even though De La Hoya made him quit. There were not a lot of big punches landed. There were not a lot of punches really thrown because De La Hoya was just doing a lot of feinting, trying to get Bernard Hernandez to open him up so it could load up with one big shot. And it was because he had a totally different fighter in front of him. He didn't look the same. Now you're going to have a limited guy like Cruz, who's nowhere near Oscar De La Hoya, and you're going to change your opponent up. He's going to struggle. I'm not going to call him a total hype job. I think he's tough enough to give people tough fights at moments. But anybody who thought that he was an uncrowned champion because he made Tank Davis look bad, that's what I mean. It doesn't equal a world champion. So you made a guy who we had question marks about, who probably didn't train for lightly because he was originally supposed to fight Rolly Romano and then switched over to Cruz. And then, so a short notice guy. And what happened? He looked good. Great. What has he done since then? They haven't matched him up with anybody good except for this last opponent. And some people think that he struggled terribly in that fight. So, that's what Never Sober was saying. And I agree with him.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's got quick hands. I didn't necessarily focus or see that today. But if you couple the quick hands with a tough chin, he's going to be hell on wheels, like for anybody on the inside. That's why people want to tie him up, like Cabrera and Tank Davis. They rarely want to have him like in their chest where the hands are free. They're like, oh, dude, this guy's up on me. He's got quick hands. Let me tie him up. That's what they do. Actually, I think he beat Tank Davis, in my opinion. Except for the 8th round, he was getting the better out of Tank Davis, and Tank Davis was wrestling him to the canvas. Yeah, that's pretty much it with Pitbull.
He got the style to give him problems.
Right, but the thing about this, what if they saw that much promise into what we saw in that one fight, they would have tried to capitalize on it by at least getting him out there and on TV so people could say, hey, so when you put him in with a rematch with Tank Davis or a different title holder, the fight's going to sell. People are going to tune in because they're going to say, hey, this guy really can do something. He's a viable threat. They haven't done that, which means one of 2 things. Well, one of at least 2 things. One, they don't know what they're doing, which is highly possible because we're talking about the PBC. Or 2, he's not worth the money they're going to invest into him because they have to take extremely limited fighters to make him look good to sell him against a world-class fighter.
Well, that was an audition last night. Make no mistake about it. He was on that undercard to look good. And if he would have sparked that kid out, and I'm sure he knows it and his family knows it, and I think that's why his father was putting that pressure on him to knock him out instead of telling him, just do what you do, let the knockout will come. He's out there, go get him, take them out in this round. Like, just, you don't usually tell your fighter to do that. You don't tell your fighter to go look for a knockout. You tell him to apply his craft and the knockout will come. But his father knew what was on the line. He would have secured the rematch. He would have secured that Davis rematch if he would have knocked that kid out. Now it's up in the air because he didn't do himself any favors. And Showtime and them, they really follow Twitter. They really see what, the temperature is. I mean, that's how they lost the Thurman fight when they first mentioned Thurman and Spence. They got so denounced and just bashed on social media so hard. They suddenly that faded away. And that was after it was reported that it was made. The Thurman, he, set the fight Thurman next. And all of a sudden, it got just, people were like, they realized, okay, this thing ain't going to sell for shit. We're going to let that just disappear. But I'm not saying he's still not going to fight Tank. He still might be the guy, but he didn't do himself any favors not, going the distance like that.
And look, credit to Cabrera. He got a tough chin, and I think Cabrera will make other guys look bad, too. He would make other folks not look that good either.
Yeah, I think everybody was underestimating his chin, dude, because he was taking some shots really clean.
May I also mention Alejandro not Alejandro Santiago, Ioannis Teles, or Telles, I don't know if that's how you pronounce the last name, Telles, a Cuban guy. This guy goes to the body for a Cuban. I can't remember the last time I saw a Cuban be as aggressive he is to go to the body, and he stopped Sergio Garcia, who had gone 12 rounds against Fundora, and who had been outboxed by Tony Harrison, but now this Telles fella stopped him, and so Garcia looked out of it. He's like complaining to the referee, fucker, you're supposed to defend yourself at all times, learn how to roll with the shots. But Ioannis Telles, that's another guy to watch. And let me check out how old he is. I think he's only 26. I think he's not one of those Cubans that that comes into the game. No, he's 23 years of age. He's got a little bit of like an alcohol fetal syndrome thing going there. I think that's just a bad lens that they used. I think it's the lens. I think it's the lens. He's too close to the fucking.
It's a bad angle, but he got the Innsmouth look. He looks a little fishy.
Well, let me tell you, this guy hits hard, man, and he's aggressive, and he just knocked out Sergio Garcia, and they already got a fight lined up with him apparently. No, excuse me, what? Yeah, the August. He's gonna be fighting in August.
Dang, already?
Whoa, less than a month. Less than a month, and they're going to put him in there against Joan Gonzalez. 32 wins, 32 knockouts, 2 losses. But hold on. Yeah, you got to watch out with these Venezuelans because they look good.
He looks like he got fetal alcohol syndrome too, BDA.
Hey, this guy's knocked out a bunch of undefeated Eastern Europeans. I got to watch him first to make a determination about how good he is. But, wowee. Interesting.
Yeah, you say Venezuelan?
Oh, no, excuse me. He lost to this guy. Yeah, Venezuelan, yes.
Yeah, they do hit hard. They tend to hit hard.
Venezuelans and Colombians.
Do you know that Colombia, out of all the places in South America, Colombia is the least populated for boxing. They almost have no boxing program there at all anymore. Crazy. I just can't wrap my head around that. Also, that's why Puerto Ricans boxing's failing in this country. All the Puerto Rican gyms in New York City have closed up. It's just not, now that the Olympics aren't even going to be doing American boxing anymore, that's going to affect Puerto Rican boxing so much. That sucks.
Oh, okay. Excuse me.
Better with a top Puerto Rican player.
Yeah, this Joan Gonzalez lost to Kurbanov. He's the guy that beat Liam Smith and Michel Soro, I believe. So that's not a knock on him for losing. I'd have to see how he lost, but this guy's got 32 wins, 32 knockouts, and only 2 losses. So. Geez, Louis, that's going to be an interesting one to watch. That being said, fellas, gotta go. We've been on for 3.5 hours, and I didn't even have breakfast today. Was that?
Before we go, you remember that guy I talked about that was predicting Spence was given Everall beating and blah, 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 and yeah, he hasn't called me.
Now, do you know this guy in person? Do you know this guy in person, or is it just via the internet?
No, we met through a Facebook chat, and then he gave me his number. We started talking back in 2013, and so we talk a couple times a week. And he called me yesterday afternoon, and I was busy moderating the open lines, so I didn't answer. When I tried to call him back, he didn't answer. And I woke up at 1:00 in the morning to see who won the fight, saw who won it, and then went back to sleep. But noticed the fact I had no missed calls from him.
Interesting. Hopefully he's all right, man.
Just wanted to
Hopefully
point that out. I hope
hopefully
he's
he
all right
didn't-
too, but I have a strange feeling I'm not going to hear from him tomorrow or at all next week.
Hopefully he didn't down a bottle of pills, because I get that the feeling that a lot of those Errol Spence fans, that's what they were going for. Well, listen, with that being said, I want to give a big...
Yeah, PD, can I say one thing, bro? I want to see if everybody noticed this, because I noticed this during the fight. I don't want to interrupt you, bro. But maybe you'll be able to know what I'm talking about since you're the oldest panelist here. Do you guys remember when George Foreman fought Joe Frazier? And I think it was one of the... I don't know. I'm not sure. He knocked him down like 5 times, right? But I remember there's one of the knockdowns where he smacks him in the back of the ear while he's trying to run away, and his body involuntarily jerks in the air, and he kind of like leaps in the air a little bit. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The same thing happened to Errol Spence. I think it was a second knockdown. Crawford caught him, and Spence, as Spence was going down, like his body just leaped out of the air, like it was an involuntary jump, and it just gave me big flashbacks of that George Foreman and Frazier beatdown, dude, and that just made me think like this isn't going to be an epic beatdown that's going to be replayed a lot of times as boxing goes on, in the United States.
Yeah, this was...
Well, that's all my bad.
No, that's all right, man. That was a grade A beatdown, absolutely. Well, listen, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the show out there, and hope we brought you entertainment and some insight. I want to give a shout out to everybody that joined in the panel. I'm talking about Never Sobers, Jimmy, Gonzalo, Chief, Bucho, who was here earlier as well. Recognized called in yesterday. He gave us his opinion, but hopefully we hear from him during one of the midweek shows. Also, I want to give a shout out to everybody that donated the super chat. Really appreciate your contributions, and like I said, everybody that called in as well. Let's give a big shout out to everybody that called in, by the way. Excuse me, everyone that donated the super chat. I'm talking about, who am I talking about? Eddie Kane, That Gucci Berserk, Ira Core, Rock Liggins donated a bunch of times. Shout out to him. Golden King Toys, Never Sobers, the aforementioned Never Sobers. Shout out to you, Never. Warped Speed, Mr. Calderon 93, Uncle Burn Apostrophe, Tyronello Rap, he donated as well as a bunch of times. Sir Unai Emery, he donated a bunch of times. Uriah Smith, Uncle Pete, Mark Polo TV, Michael Poe, the one and only, Carlos Ruiz, and Chet Collins. Guys, really appreciate your contributions. Hope you enjoy the show. We will be back. Boxing never stops, fellas. We got a mega fight coming up next week. Jake Pulver's Jake Pulver's Nate Diaz. That's going to be taking place next week, and I believe Lara versus Danny Garcia is taking place that very same day. I got to tell you, I don't usually...
I already bought the pay-per-view.
I mean, let me tell you, Jimmy, I think I'm gonna buy that pay-per-view over fucking Lara versus Garcia. You'd have to pay me to watch Lara Garcia, but that's what we're gonna be having. And of course, we got Navarrete Valdez the week after, as well as Anthony Joshua, Dylan White too. That should be a banger for as long as it goes. Emmanuel Rodriguez on Showtime that day as well. Then we got Beterbiev August 19th via my neck of the woods, Quebec City. And much more boxing after that as well. So shout out to you fellas, everybody that donated, everybody that called in, the panelists. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. We will be back later this week with a Pound for Pound Open Lines show, midweek Open Lines. So hope you enjoy it. Look forward to it. Take it easy, fellas. Thanks for watching. The fuck? That's not the right song. What the? That was somebody burping right there. Where's this music? There we go.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.